Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
All about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
I ate a few calories this week, got a little bigger, a little bolder.
Scott chunked up a little bit, grew a couple inches in height. Fred, Ryan, James, and Drew in the studio tonight is Scott. I guess he's on his second leg of his trip now off to Cincinnati. He's on the shit end of the stick now, right?
Yeah, took a little vacation out to Vegas and now a little work trip to somewhere way shittier than Vegas.
Yeah. Hopefully your flight went good, Scott. Hopefully you got a chance to chime in the chat room. Hopefully you're comfortable. So,
and happy birthday, Birdland. Fred's birthday is your birthday. That's kind of how this works. He is the bird father himself. He is Mr. Tuesday night. He's the reason we got something to do on Tuesday.
Let's keep the birthday talk at a minimum. We're not going to talk numbers here. We're not going to talk age or anything, right? Let's keep it at a minimum. I appreciate that, though, man. It means a lot. You want to do a shot then to get away?
Birthday shot.
There it is. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Nice.
And I want to present you with your birthday gift right here and now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Fire Foursome wanted to make sure that, Scott got a nice vacation.
Fire Foursome, I love it.
The Scott got a nice little vacation, but the Fire Foursome wanted to make sure that your vacation went a little bit better. And the three of us got together and we're taking care of your universal ticket. So this weekend's going to be a little bit easier on you. You're good to go. We're going to have as much fun as you want down there.
Man,
right?
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
We talked about buying your Ravens crap and alcohol and all this. We're like, Fred's got it all. Let's just make this vacation a little bit better.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you, Kaylee, Brittany. You guys know who you are. And Ryan, of course. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Looking forward to it. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to tonight. Looking forward to this show, man. We got a lot to talk about. The Ravens are in full-on free agency mode right now as there's been a whirlwind of some players going, some players staying, some new player. I'm not going to say players. Some new player, but a very important piece that we're going to talk a little bit about as well. The Terps, they get into the NCAA tournament.
We made it.
They made it.
Just barely. I was sweating.
They kind of had to work their way in, but they did. So we're going to talk a little bit about the round one matchup up against UConn. Funny enough, our buddy Jeremy Kahn last week talked about UConn. So.
Luckily, Jeremy Kahn got the first end of his prediction wrong, and I'm hoping he got the second end wrong, too.
Right. The Orioles add a former first-round pick to their starting infield. Some mixed reviews on how fans feel about it and the risk-reward with it, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, too. In this week's rundown, we're talking Drew Brees officially retiring while Taysom Hill gets paid in New Orleans, sort of.
Everybody's getting paid in New Orleans.
Not really, though. The whole contract language is interesting, to say the least. But before we do too much, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH, the Maryland personal injury attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in that unfortunate situation, just like I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, well, save this number now, damn it. I've been telling you for I don't know how long. Save it now.
What's taking so long? It's Fred's birthday.
Save it on my birthday. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including gift cards to some local restaurants.
All right, before we move on any further, the original host that I took over for is asking you to open your birthday gift.
Oh, he wants me to open it now. Okay,
yeah.
I was going to do it in the after hours. Your wife did give it to me and gave me very strict instructions not to open it until you told me to. So, all right, let's do that.
We waited till the instruction.
All right. Well, they got this thing taped up like
Go
freaking
short.
There's probably a couple
It's your
second
birthday.
delay from Cincinnati with the instructions, as we saw with our Brandon Segovia interview in California. Apparently, internet doesn't move as fast as we thought it does.
No, especially out of state. Definitely does not. Apparently, it works a lot better on the East Coast.
It's
Fred
your
is
birthday.
opening the box. He is removing a shaft-like item.
Yes.
And,
Looks like a baseball bat.
and James predicted it correctly.
Is it signed by Chris Davis? Please let this be signed by Chris Davis.
Oh, man.
Honestly, that'd be pretty awesome if we got you a discount bat for Chris Davis.
Oh, shit. That is fucking awesome. So it's a, I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me try to pull it out of the wrapper. I don't want to mess
This
it up.
is a bat that is painted with the Birdland logo, right?
How
I'm so glad
awesome
all
is
I got you
that?
was liquor. Thank God it was not green.
So for you guys, if you want to zoom in on this, that way the fans can see it. There you
Go
go.
to the front
It's a
cam.
Birdland BS baseball bat, and it's even got Foster Bats at the bottom. I don't know if that's the company name or what, but that's really, really cool.
I think it
Fred-
is. That's what the FB stands for.
Scott opened
Okay.
his own baseball bat
That is
company
awesome.
just for you.
It's amazing. He's an
It's amazing.
entrepreneur.
Thank you, Scott. That's awesome, man. We're going to have to hang it up in here somewhere, so this will be a gift to
know.
both of us, right?
Scott on Friday was just Googling himself and figured out that there was a bat company named after him.
That's pretty freaking awesome, man. That's pretty awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. I didn't expect all this stuff on the show. You guys throw me off.
Yeah,
Throw me
why
off the
not?
game.
This-
Well, speaking of birthdays, right? So it's kind of cool. I actually share a birthday with one of the GOATs. It's Ozzie Newsome's birthday.
Oh, I thought it was St. Patty's.
No,
birthday.
no, not the leprechaun in the tree. It's the Ozzie Newsome, man, the real GOAT. So we're talking Ravens flock, man. We got a lot to cover on this week's show. I think Eric DaCosta was burning on the phones first thing when legal tampering,
Which is the weirdest
was
thing. Can we
allowed.
just rename it?
I know. It's so
Tampering
stupid.
is illegal, so don't call it legal tampering.
Right. Well, he ends up getting on the phone with a very important piece and locks up a deal at 2 a.m. with veteran guard Kevin Zeitler. Or Zeitler. I don't know how you pronounce that. Zeitler?
Whichever way, he's to be playing guard for us.
That's right.
It's Zeitler.
He played with the Giants the last couple of years, but more importantly, the bulk of his career, he played in the AFC North, played for quite a few seasons with the Bengals, a couple years with the Browns. So obviously he's got a lot of familiarity with the AFC North, which
We
is
won't
huge.
hold it against him.
Right. But what was important about this entire thing is free agent offensive lineman went quick and for a lot of money. And Eric DaCosta was able to get this deal wrapped up prior to any of these mega deals getting announced. And in my opinion, when you sign this guy who, again, a veteran free agent who is one of the top guards in the league, and you get him to a deal like 3 years worth $22 million, it's only going to be a 4.05 cap hit this coming year. It's a lot of value there.
It looked very reasonable compared to what we've seen come out after it. Like you said, this might have cost a lot more if we waited a few more hours.
Exactly. He's been a very reliable and durable player his entire career. He's played right guard his entire career, so this will actually be a replacement. If you can ever replace Marshall Yanda, right? This will be at least a stopgap for the next couple of years. But funny, talking about Yanda, he actually reached out to Marshall before making his decision because he said he had a lot of options on the table, and rightfully so. Again, he's one of the top guards on the market. Talked to Marshall about Baltimore and this offensive line group and the system and whether or not he thought it would be a good fit. And Marshall brought it home for us. He sold it to him. So
Marshall's still putting in work.
still on the payroll,
We're going to
apparently.
send you a check next week. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So,
Right.
so you take his opinion seriously.
Right.
So this guy looks good. I mean, obviously, evaluating linemen's a lot more difficult than the flashy wide receivers and things, but he looks really athletic, really active on the guard pulls in the Giants offense, which would
Right.
be very useful. Get him out in space and block him for Lamar or whoever else is back there.
And I think that's the most important thing here is we talk about the difference in this passing game, the difference in Lamar from his MVP season to last year, and it was the lack of consistency on the offensive line, the lack of comfort that he had in the pocket. You know, losing a guy like Marshall, you can't replace him, and the Ravens didn't do a very good job replacing him. Outside of that, they're having snap issues. You know, it was just a constant cluster in the middle of that offensive line last year. This is a piece that gives them some options. Because if he slides in the right guard like we're expecting him to, you could see Bradley Bozeman slide over to center, which is more his natural position, which is what he played in college. And then you've got the Ben Powers or even Phillips option or even Bredesen at left guard there. Or
Keep going. Keep getting more bodies for me.
Or you keep Bozeman out at left guard and you bring in another veteran center as another option and really form this offensive line and build a wall.
If Bozeman played a single snap at center last year, we can look for somebody else because everyone had snap issues last year.
Interestingly enough, an interesting name came up right before we went live, a couple hours before we went live. I don't know what the fuck's going on in Las Vegas. The Raiders are just dropping people like flies. I don't understand like the reasoning behind it. Apparently, Rodney Hudson, their Pro Bowl center, who's been one of the top centers in the league for a very long time, asked for his release, and he was released. So you've got, now granted, he's 32 years old, but still a top-level center that's out there. It's going to cost a decent amount of money, so it's going to be interesting to see if the Ravens, after some of the moves that they've made, do they have enough money to go out and get this guy? Well, let me tell you this. You add Zeitler and you add Hudson to this offensive line, Lamar's game goes to the next level. This offense goes back to what it should be and what it could be, and that's before you add any other weapons. I think you didn't get to see the potential with Duvernay or Prochet yet and what they look like in the offense. You get Lamar that kind of protection where he's comfortable. This offense could take another step even with the personnel that they have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge upgrade whenever you increase the benefit of the offensive line. It helps you in the run game, helps him feel comfortable in the pocket and not be on the run immediately all the time.
Exactly.
So we saw just the change this year in losing Stanley. Like you had to change what the offensive line was doing. They still did things well, but it wasn't the same things.
Right.
Everything changes with one of those guys.
Right. And you talk about the Zeitler deal, man. This when you compare it to some of the other names that were out there that a lot of people wanted to see come in, you got a guy like Lindsley from the Packers, right? He ends up signing a deal for $12.5 million a year with the Chargers. It's a big contract for an offensive lineman. And you got Thuney out there who ended up signing a $16 million deal with the Chiefs because the Chiefs dumped both of their tackles.
It was so confusing to me. We're like, we're going to cut both our tackles and immediately sign similar players. They must have been done with those guys.
At a premium, too. You know, you thought, well, maybe the Chiefs are going to be up against the cap and they're trying to make space, but then they bring in another veteran like this at a top premium
It felt
price.
like cost savings when they cut those guys because those
exactly.
were the same two tackles that missed the Super Bowl. It wasn't like those were the tackles that shit the bed during the Super Bowl.
Right.
Those were the players that were missing, and we saw how bad they are without them, and they're like, we'll be good next year without them. That'll be fine.
And the other tie into this is how smart, again, the Ravens have been historically with comp picks, right? Because Zeitler was released, this is not going to cost the Ravens any kind of comp picks going into next year or anything like that. So there was a very low risk in signing this guy. This is all reward. This is a very good situation. You get him on the cheap. You get a veteran that can help your offensive line grow, especially if you don't go the route of bringing in a free agent center and you're drafting, let's say, a younger guy, you put a guy on Zeitler to his right who can help him with some of the the at the line adjustments and things like that can kind of help him learn on the job. That's going to make things and make that transition a lot easier for that guy.
Yeah, I mean, the center is one of the most important positions because he makes all those calls. There's a lot of pressure at that kind of level, so it's good to have a vet presence there.
Right. Well, so some of the departures I think were pretty predictable. These were guys that we have been talking about now for the last month or two as potential guys that weren't going to come back. And we'll start it with the big news, and that was Matt Judon. Ravens decided not to franchise tag him, which we talked about last week. We thought if they were going to bring back one of the other between Judon and Yannick, we thought maybe it would be Judon. It seemed like it would make more sense. But he ends up signing a deal with the Patriots, 4 years, $56 million, $32 million guaranteed. He got paid. Now, granted, it wasn't the average annual salary that I kind of expected him to be at. I thought he'd be in that $16 to $18 million range.
It wasn't the 20 he was rumored to want earlier this year.
Right. No, it wasn't. But, I mean, he ends up coming in at a $14 million range, still more than I would have liked to have seen the Ravens spend on him. I love Judon to death and everything. I just don't see the value there at $14 million, especially in the cap situation that the Ravens are in right now. So he goes to the Patriots. Of all teams, it made me sick to my stomach to see him sign with the Patriots, but
his deal and Yannick's deal are in that range that we had talked about, though, where I'd said you offer them both like number 10 pass rusher money and see who bites. Yannick's, especially, as we'll get to later, is very much in that realm, and Judon's pretty close. So I was a little bit more upset than the numbers we thought we were going to see.
Yeah, and with Judon, I think fans are a little bit unfair and uber critical of Matt Judon. You got to remember where this guy comes from, right? He was a former 5th-round pick out of Grand Valley State. Who?
Yep.
Right, out of Grand Valley State, ends up with 34.5 sacks, 236 tackles in his 5 seasons here. I know he didn't put up the double-digit sack production that we all wanted and we all look at in the stat book, but what he was able to bring, really as a Sam linebacker and give you that coverage, give you the ability to set the edge. He was more of a complete outside. He wasn't a one-trick pony. He wasn't just a pass rush specialist.
And who has put up those numbers in this defense?
Right.
It's just really, that's not, you're assigned so many different things. It's such a complex defense. It doesn't seem to be what we're doing.
Right. And at this point, again, we talk about the comp picks and the Ravens being smart. You lose a guy like Matt Judon. You hate to see it, but in reality, the Ravens are going to end up getting probably a 3rd-round comp pick, maybe 4th, but more than likely a 3rd-round comp pick for Judon. So again, another 5th-round pick that played beyond expectations.
Turn into a 3rd.
He plays out his rookie contract here. He gets paid somewhere else. But the Ravens have historically been good at developing defensive talent. I've got all the faith in the world in Eric DeCosta that we will find a replacement, even if it's not in free agency. We'll find one in the draft that'll be a plug and play.
Yeah, we'll find the next one and develop them. It's what they do in that position. It's what they've always done.
Exactly. So you talked about Yannick, so we'll go on to him next. He actually agreed to a deal with the Raiders, who they're dumping everybody, but I guess they were dumping everybody to sign Yannick.
Yeah, they needed all that extra money for his $13 million.
Right.
Is he playing 2 ways?
Yeah. He signs a 2-year deal, $26 million. I think this is one of those situations where, again, because the cap number didn't go up as much, this is one of those short-term, prove-it kind of deals. If he goes in there, fits in that defensive system, puts up the sack production that we all expect him to put, he's only 25 years old. You know what I mean? At this point in his career, he's only 25. So this allows him to play 2 years and be 27 again with hopefully, on his end, good sack production where he can really hit the market hard in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be rooting for him. He's a Terp.
Right.
I want to see him get back to where he was in Jacksonville and make some money when that cap bumps. So
right.
Good luck out there, man.
So to get Yannick, you remember the trade with Minnesota. We gave up a 3rd and a 5th-round pick, which when you look at that, you think, damn, we got a 3rd and a 5th-round pick for half a season, and we really didn't get a whole lot of production out of him. But when you think about it long-term, again, more than likely we'll get a 3rd in comp back for him, maybe a 4th again because the contract wasn't very big. So it might end up being a 4th-round pick. So again, if you do get a 3rd, really all it cost you was a 5th-round pick for a half a season when, yes, maybe he didn't live up to the expectations, but he did wreak havoc in the backfield. He did rush the passer. He got a lot of pressure. He just didn't get home.
Yeah, and the Ravens have always managed to manufacture 5th-round picks, trading down slightly, moving around. They always can get build their draft status that way.
Would you consider this one of DeCosta's bigger misses when he's, with the deals that he's made? And as you've seen him, obviously 2 years ago, he makes the deal and brings in Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters is a home run, right? The Earl Thomas situation in free agency, when he was on the field, he was productive. Obviously, you can't predict the off-the-field bullshit, but he did have some character issues.
It's so hard to call it a miss because the defensive production was better as a whole. We didn't see that it was him,
right.
But at the end of the year, the Ravens defense did play better. So it's hard to say. Was any of that him? Was none of that him? I think they can do better. I don't think it's what they wanted him for. I think they wanted him for that off-the-edge sacks. And somehow they were managed to basically negate that, whether there was him not playing well or because he was the only one that had that skill set, they had the players to block it.
Right.
I don't know which one it was.
Right, and that's a good point. So again, we kind of predicted that this would happen. Just looking at the cap numbers, it didn't make sense for them to bring back Judon or Yannick. We didn't want to see them both go, but we kind of figured that this was going to happen. What we didn't want to see is we didn't want to see everybody abandoned ship, and we have to replace everybody that's, in the outside linebacker group. The two guys that we thought made the most sense money-wise, and I think even long-term, Pernell McPhee won because he's a veteran. He knows this defensive system. He's been in the system for years. He came back, and when he was on the field, granted he's not on the field a lot, when he was on the field, he was productive. Get him back on the cheap, right? The other guy that I think flies under the radar a lot, Tyus Bowser, he's a guy that he brings a lot of value, and every year he gets a little bit better. Again, he's not super flashy as far as sack numbers go and pressure goes, but he is definitely the most complete Sam linebacker on this team.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely kept a lot of talent there. With McPhee, like you said, we're getting a little older in the tooth, a little less production, but if he's going to be productive anywhere, it's going to be here. He knows the system in and out. Not only that, he'll be very useful in coaching up the younger players in the system because he does have that understanding. He knows what they can do. So a little bit coach on the field and get some production out of him.
And Tyus Bowser, this contract, when you look at the numbers of it, it's 4 years, $22 million, with the potential to go up to $27 million. He gets $12 million guaranteed. He's only 25 years old, so even at the end of this contract, he'll be 29. So he'll still be in the prime of his career. He'll still be ready to get another payday if everything works out for him and he continues to improve. You got to remember, this guy brings value as not just a linebacker. He's one of our better special teamers as well. He's improved in every which way. He's very good in coverage. I guess the only thing that he needs to work on, in my opinion, a little bit is he does need to get better at setting the edge a little bit. That's something he's shown some improvement from to last year. And again, he's got to work on the pass rush skills. I'd like to see him get home more, but he's got to have another guy opposite of him, right? He's got to have somebody over there that's going to be able to take the pressure off, because if Tyus Bowser is your only pass rush threat, it's not much of a threat.
Yeah, it's exactly what we just talked about, that they were able to block Yannick because it was the only one that had it. If he's the only one, it's even easier to block.
Right.
He at least hasn't shown the ceiling that Yannick has.
Right. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, there's still some big free agent names out there that the Ravens, I'm sure, are on the phone with, trying to figure out ways that they can manipulate the cap and bring another big name in here. Justin Houston, I know a lot of fans out there are clamoring for him because, one, he's high production type player. Two, he's veteran leadership. Especially if you're going to be drafting some younger guys, you want somebody like that in your locker room. And then there's some other names out there, even on the cheap. There's the Ryan Kerrigans of the world. I personally think that he'd be a good fit, and again, you might be able to get him at a good price. And then you've got the Hassan Reddicks of the world, who, I get it, you have a little fear that he might have just been a one-hit wonder, but this guy has defied the odds every which way. I mean, he went to Temple as a walk-on, right, and had to earn his way onto the team. He was an undrafted free agent going to the Cardinals. Makes the team, and then last year he ends up with 12.5 sacks when they finally used him as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, he finally got his chance, whether it was injury related or not, but they used him outside linebacker and got those sacks. It's hard for the Ravens. I mean, every year we feel like the developmental league for the rest of the teams. We're developing linebackers and shipping them across the nation.
Right.
So it's just every year you got to refund. So it's a difficult spot.
Yeah, one of the, I guess, more underrated departures that I was kind of sad to see go, Jihad Ward ends up signing a deal with the Jaguars. He was a guy that, didn't get a ton of opportunity here, but when he did, he was very effective. I thought he did a great job. But, Joe Cullen, who was his defensive line coach here, is now the defensive coordinator down there in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got a boatload of money to spend. I mean, they're signing players left and right now just because they're so far under the cap. He's earned it. He's earned that payday. He was a guy, he's got that Raven in him, man. He's got that edge to him. He's the one that was giving the middle finger in Tennessee as they're walking off the field. There's just a lot to like about Jihad Ward. I think that will be a big miss, especially in the run game.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, this is what we saw. I mean, when Rex Ryan went to the Jets, they became the little mini Ravens. They start stealing talent from the system. Now we have multiple Ravens coaches at multiple locations across the country, so it becomes even harder because they know your hidden gems on that defense. They can, They're like, oh, we can get more out of this guy. Trust me, and they can bring him in. Right. So that becomes difficult also.
The other guy, Derek Wolfe, who's been in limbo. He's put some kind of cryptic tweets out there.
Underrated always.
Yeah, and apparently Craig Zero is saying he's back. So I'm going to need you to confirm that
No,
for
that
me.
happened right before we came in. I can look up the numbers.
Okay.
It happened right before the show.
Well, that's huge.
That is huge.
That's huge. Derek Wolfe, again, another good fit on this defense, another good fit here.
3-year contract. That's all I see, but 3-year contract.
Nice. All right, well, that's huge. Getting him back makes me feel a little bit more
Yeah,
confident.
he was
'cause-
coming off injury last year when we signed him, right, from Denver, and a lot more production than I think we thought we were going to get out of him. It just felt like a guy, again, like that fit the mentality of the Ravens.
Right. Yeah, no, that's huge. That was one of the ones I was worried about leaving right up there with Jihad Ward. So good to have Derek
1 out of
Wolfe
2
back
there.
for sure.
It's a 3-year deal.
3-year deal. Yeah, that's what
$12 million.
12 million. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
That's right up. That's the Ravens way, baby.
Right.
And
Exactly.
free Pizza John's Pizza, you know?
So maybe Marcus Peters did Derek Wolfe a favor because Marcus
Yeah.
Peters restructured his contract right before free agency opened, ended up freeing up about $3.5 million on the cap for this year. So that $3.5 million goes, however you want to look at it, goes towards
Basically
whatever.
paid his whole salary.
But it
this year.
paid Derek Wolfe's salary. So Derek Wolfe is a Raven thanks to Marcus Peters. Appreciate you, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. So you got that. And then some of the restricted free agents that we obviously all expected to be back. The big one was Gus Edwards, right? He was a guy that we were hoping maybe the Ravens would work out a long-term deal with him, maybe like a 2 or 3 year long-term in running back terms, 2 or 3 year contract with him to keep him paired up with JK because I think they're a good 1-2 combo. You can't afford – you already lost Mark Ingram. I don't think you can afford to lose Gus Edwards too. But they ended up placing a second-round tender on Gus Edwards that cost them $3.384 million in cap space. So any team that was going to sign him to an offer sheet would have had to sacrifice their second-round pick to get him. But instead of tendering him, they ended up signing him to a deal, right? Didn't they end up doing something with his contract where? Or no, that was Chris Board.
Yeah,
Chris
role player.
Board. All right, yeah. So there was 2 of them. Chris Board, another one.
Yeah.
Another important cog that, again, big special teams guy, played an important role this past year when LJ Fort went down. Again, he doesn't get a ton of playing time, but again, when he does, he's been a very, very effective player.
Yeah, instead of tendering Chris Board, they worked out a 1-year deal, $2.6 million. Basically, that helps him get to free agency when the cap's normal again.
Right.
That's so he probably maybe lost, a couple $100,000 this year, but instead of signing a deal while no one has money, hopefully we get fans back in the stands. The salary cap jumps what it was supposed to this year and what it was supposed to next year, and everybody gets paid like the NBA did a couple years ago.
Right. I hope those contracts don't end up being like the NBA contracts. Those contracts are absolutely ridiculous. But like I said, I think this is a very underrated move, bringing back Board. Good athleticism, very versatile player. Was used more and more this past season in some blitz packaging and whatnot, which I thought he did pretty well. But again, it gives you depth at an inside linebacker position where, yes, you drafted a couple rookies last year that are supposed to be your starters, your everydays, but you got to have guys out there, one, that contribute on special teams and good depth behind those guys.
A guy's that's on special teams like Chris Board is right in John Harbaugh's heart.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Well, one that's not any longer anyway, and thank fucking God, Chris Moore.
Signs a contract with the
Texans. Yeah, so
Gotta follow that old coach with it.
So I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically the same thing as Hopkins. So they replace exo facto. That's Hopkins now.
yeah, Chris Moore, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, they're
I
the
can
same
see the
player.
similarities. Yeah,
Just ask the Texans.
Texans are now becoming basically the Ravens South, right? We've got the Ravens North with the Jets, and now you got the Ravens South down in Houston. No, I wish nothing but the best for Chris Moore. I'm just glad it's not here anymore. It was just, that was a roster spot, especially at the wide receiver position, that just seemed to be wasted every year. He never put up numbers, was never productive. He had that bonehead play where he was wide open on the sideline and stepped out of bounds instead of keeping his feet in bounds. It's just been a lot of things with Chris Moore, but well wishes to you down in Houston.
Well, now Houston's got backup quarterback down there. Has another option to throw to.
Got
right.
just a team full of backups down there.
Yeah, team full backups. They added Tyrod, so now they got 2 backups. I don't know who the starter is.
Well, keeping a similar theme with compensatory picks, the Ravens did finally confirm they are getting 2 compensatory picks this year. They're getting a 3rd round, 105th overall. That was for the David Culley like the whole diversity signing by the Texans and all that. I think we actually get not only a pick
Free
this
picks.
year.
Let it rain. We
Next
get
year,
picks.
too.
We get one next year as
third
well,
round.
which that's pretty freaking epic. You get 2 compensatory picks for just an assistant signing as a head coach.
Who assistants get moved all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Thanks,
So
man.
We'll take
Way to
that
go.
for sure. They end up getting a 5th round, which is 184th overall for Michael Pierce, leaving in free agency and going to Minnesota last year.
It didn't even play.
Right, and didn't even play. Right. So I'm happy that we got anything for him. So
Way
to
to
get a
go,
5th
Vikes.
round, I'm good with it. But now that gives the team the 7 overall picks that they had projected this year. They'll have a pick in every round but the 7th, and they'll have 2 in the 5th this year. So it'll be interesting to see what Eric DeCosta does, man, because the Ravens still, at this point, it's still early. We're only in day 2 of free agency, right? Or legal tampering, whatever the fuck you want to call it at this
You're not
point.
even under the free agent umbrella yet.
Right. I know we got spoiled, right? Because the first deal came off the board at 2 a.m. and we thought, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to get hit with, we're going to get all these players. You got to remember, we don't have a whole lot of cap space, and we definitely don't now, especially if Derek Wolfe's back in the fold. You brought back Tyus Bowser. You got Zeitler coming in. But there are still ways through restructuring and extending contracts and things like that the Ravens could free up some more space to be able to go out and get a guy. No, everybody is still hoping for a wide receiver. Kenny Golladay is still out there. Still there. I don't think that's happening, but he's still there. Juju Smith-Schuster, a lot of people
Nobody wants him.
A lot of
Still
people
there.
on social media, man, have been clamoring for him. I know
No,
the whole
thank you.
TikTok attitude and all that stuff, but if you just look at the production, the on-the-field production, he's not a bad receiver. I'm not saying he was ever going to be a number 1 receiver like Pittsburgh thought he would. That's why they got rid of Antonio Brown.
I'll take
part
the
of the reason.
suspended, juiced-up Will Fuller over him all day.
Yeah, Will Fuller for me is not the true X receiver that we need in this offense. But
Neither is Juju. The only one that's out there now is Galladay.
yeah, well, Galladay's a much better option, yes, but I think you can use Schuster in both the slot and as an X. But either way, I don't think either one of those guys are going to come here. Marvin Jones was just scooped up. I'm pretty sure he went to Jacksonville too, I think.
I heard that before I came. That's
That's because they're going to send us DJ Chark, so they need a replacement.
Well, so then you had the asshole on social media on Twitter talking about this deal that the Ravens were working out with Jacksonville for Chark to come here and had everybody bamboozled on Twitter. It was fucking hilarious. I don't know if
we all want it to be true. It doesn't take that much. You
Right.
guys just put something out there like
but
that.
it got so much attention that Tony Khan had to come out on social media and be like, yeah, this is 100% bullshit.
Yeah, he's like, that's the largest bag of garbage I've ever seen.
Oh,
on
it
the
was
internet.
great. I was telling our buddy who's in the Beatdown podcast, I said, you got to frame that and put that on your wall in your studio, because I damn sure would. That's fucking awesome. Tony Khan responded to you.
Word is Galladay is signing with the Jags. Well, they are sending us DJ Chark if that happens.
If he's not sending him to
how
us-
do they need that many wide receivers?
Right.
What are you doing? You're greedy.
Oh, by the way, that chime in on that one. I saw before I came here, since the start of the 2011 free agency, the Jacksonville Jaguars have spent a total of $1.4 billion in
saw that.
just free agencies.
Yeah.
And you wonder why you're in the
They've
cellar every single
spent
season.
the most money in free agency during that time, and they have the worst winning percentage
Yep.
during that same time. So that just goes to show you all these teams out there that are spending big bucks right now.
Looking at you,
New England. Exactly. Doesn't always work out. I mean, it
I kind of
obviously.
think it's going to work there.
I don't think
Really, with Cam Newton as the leader? I don't know. We'll
don't
see.
think so.
I still think there's something in the works there with the quarterback position. I swear, Jimmy G, or if they fucking somehow pull off Russell Wilson and he goes to New England, I'm going to be real upset if I got to watch that. But I just can't. I can't imagine they're spending all of this money on weapons to put around Cam Newton
to do nothing.
There's
There's some kind of
nothing.
Belichick magic, though, man. Those, like, the most people opting out last year, they all come back at the same salary, same years. They literally punted last year. That was the first NFL tank that wasn't for a quarterback.
Yeah, well, again, you got nobody behind Cam Newton. So unless they're planning on trading up in the draft and going and getting one of these younger
There
guys,
was talks about Chris Carson going up there today.
To New England?
Yeah.
Really? I know there's been some discussions,
Fournette's
too,
That'd be the
about
best running back
Fournette.
they had in a while.
Well, Leonard Fournette's not bad either. Now, granted, Chris Carson, Leonard Fournette, I don't know. You can 1A, 1B them. I don't really know which one would be better at
Depends
that point.
if one of them's knees are swollen.
Yeah, that's true, too. I don't know, man. So, listen, I don't think the Ravens are done in free agency. I just wouldn't expect, in my opinion, I wouldn't expect the big splash free agent. As much as we want Kenny Golladay, I just don't see it happening.
I don't expect it, but I'm still hopeful until he signs.
Yeah. You might see a smaller move, like an Emmanuel Sanders, I think might make some sense. There's some other, like I said, I kind of wanted to see Marvin Jones. Sad to see him go to Jacksonville. What do you got, Jerry?
Sanders signed with the Bills.
Sanders signed with the Bills.
Apparently.
That just happened?
Yeah, apparently.
Really? Well, he gone. See, that's what happens when you film live.
And Galladay's news is breaking during this podcast.
Yeah, right.
And apparently Robinson's probably not going to sign his tender.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. So the free agency market with wide receivers has been really slow to start. Now you're starting to see some names drop. You had Marvin Jones drop earlier, and now obviously Emmanuel Sanders. Kenny Golladay is the one that's going to set the market, right? That he's going to be the one that sets the market, and then everybody else should fall in line behind him. Allen Robinson did say, though, that if they didn't bring, well, I don't know if he said it or not. I saw a rumor out there on Twitter. You can't believe everything you see on Twitter. I learned that
Almost
the hard way
none
already.
of it.
Yeah. But apparently that if they don't bring in the quarterback, a quarterback, a legit quarterback that he wants out is what I heard.
Then he ain't signed his deal when he signed Dalton then because...
Yeah. I mean, Dalton, I don't know if he's just another insurance policy like he was in Dallas. I don't know. I can't imagine.
That was such great insurance.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they're hoping that is their quarterback answer.
All he did was ensure they didn't get a better draft pick.
Yeah. This is the organization that did draft Mitch Trubisky over some much better options.
Watson.
Yep. Over that backup
Watson
in Houston.
That's very, very true.
It's the Birdland BS Hall of Fame out there.
That's right. James, what's going on social media, man? Who's chiming in?
A lot. We hit 100 comments really fast.
Nice.
Tonight, so everything's good. Must be your birthday shout out.
Yeah,
Happy
right.
birthday
That's what
has
it
got
is.
us there.
There we go.
So you got the normal Steven, Ryan, Sharon, Kamal, Dominic, Craig Zero, Jamal, Chuck, Eric, Red, White, and Dew, Foxes 23, Kaylee, Brittany, Scott, Christy, Brad, Garnett, Nick, Catherine, Joshua, Craig Zero, Joe, and Mr. Chandler.
Nice. Got a lot out there.
Chuck, you just got Emmanuel Sanders up there in Buffalo, so I expect you send Mr. Diggs back home, all right? It's even trade, no problem.
Yeah.
Any good questions out there? Any good comments that we want to bring in?
They're all just talking about like this free agency and who we should bring in and about Judon, going. But I think it will all pay off at the end. I think Ravens, we're just, I don't know, we just have it too good.
Yeah.
Compared to other teams, we could be.
Yeah, you got to find something to complain about.
Right. Yeah. If the Ravens are in the situation that they're in, where they're competitive every single year, they're in the playoffs every single year, and they're not outspending big money on free agency, that means things are working how they're supposed to, right? Things are now, granted, things are going to change a little bit. Obviously, when you have to pay big bucks to keep Lamar, and we're not going down that rabbit hole again, Ryan. We went down that last week. No, we're not staying away from that this week.
Finish him.
But I do think that, listen, is Eric DaCosta perfect? No GM is, but I wouldn't be putting or begging for it. It irritates me to no end that there are people out there that just don't appreciate the job that our GMs that we've had two, they're plural, right? It's Ozzie Newsome and Eric DaCosta, the two GMs that we've had. What they've done historically isn't enough. That you think that somebody else could come in here and do this job better.
No, they can't do anything better. But
Right.
I can say that you picked on my job last week. I'm just noticing this right now. You talked about how crowded my show and tell background is. I can't even see the mansion behind all the people you put on that photo.
I had a whole lot of stuff to cram in there, so to make sure we had a lot of players going. Go ahead, James.
But I think this is now you're going to see next year probably bigger the turn on the offense compared to defense. You
Right.
signed those guys to put the Band-Aid on the defense. But I think it's time that we're going to be flipping the money on the offense.
You'll find out at the draft, because if they draft a bunch of defenders, they're ready to sign a bunch of offense from elsewhere.
Well, they're going to draft some defenders. They historically always do. They always draft a defensive lineman. They always draft a DB. They're going to draft guys. They've got to draft pass rushers. They have to. And I think right now we talk about the window, Drew. We talk about the window, right? So right now, you're basically, with this offensive group that you have, you're in a 1-year window because we don't know how the Orlando Brown situation is going to work out. Orlando Brown might only be here, if he is here, for this 1 year, right? So your right tackle spot, bearing injury, is set. Ronnie Stanley comes back, hopefully from injury, and everything's okay, and he's your left
with that
tackle.
second surgery underway.
Right. Zeitler comes in and fills in at right guard. I think that's why that this is so important right now. If you can go out and get a veteran for just a couple years, a 2-year or a 3-year deal, you bring in a guy like even Alex Mack, he's still out there unless something happened in the last couple of hours. Drew, you'll have to figure out that
so
one for
fast,
me.
it might as well.
I know. You have no idea anymore.
You're
You're
idle now, it's
you're
Mack.
almost afraid to say a name at this point. And then you got Hudson, who was released today. If you can get one more of those guys and really solidify this offensive line, the wide receiver core is going to flourish from that. Lamar's going to be more comfortable. He's going to have more time. He's going to be more relaxed, which is what he was in his MVP season, and we all saw what happened that year.
Yep, that's true. Craig Zero, to answer your question, Fred's the Rashad Bateman guy. He's a Minnesota truther out there.
Yeah, I love Rashad Bateman. Our boy Garnett, I know he's a big Rashad Bateman fan.
Got fond memories from me taking him in Minnesota, so he's all about Bateman.
Nah, I've been about Bateman for a couple of years, and I think he's a very good fit, and we're going to talk more about specific fits next week. So if you want a preview on some college guys that I've got my eyes on, make sure you watch next week because that's what we're going to dive into. Tyus Martial, guy that obviously I know Drew is a big fan of Marshall. He's another guy that I would think would be a good fit. So we'll talk more about them next week for sure. All right, Ryan, it's time for some Turtle Talk.
Yeah, some shell and tell. That's right. Well, also, next week we'll be reviewing the first 2 wins in the NCAA tournament.
I hope so.
Yeah, so that's just tune in for that.
Well, the team didn't shit the bed quite as bad as I thought in the Big Ten tournament. They had the first round matchup with Michigan State. We talked about the team being worn down and being tired and how are they going to do in that game. Well, they came out and played a very impressive game against Michigan State and won that first round.
Yeah, we played Michigan State, took them down, and then finished off the state of Michigan, even though we couldn't end the game.
Yeah.
So we kind of broke this down again, good, bad, ugly, so we got a couple games to cover. Eric Ayala broke out of that shooting slump. The reason we lost the 2 games was Eric Ayala was on no-show.
Yeah. Eric, he was the big reason for us being in both of these games.
He led the Terps in scoring both nights, 21 points against Michigan State, 19 points against Michigan. Looked like his old self. Looked like he had been doing most of the year. I don't know why he fell off the map there against 2 not very good teams at the end of the season, but looked pretty good.
Yeah. And then you got, again, the big X factor with Michigan State, right, is Izzo, right? And him being more prepared and having his teams more prepared as we get closer to tournament time and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know if Turge has something on Izzo or he's figured out Izzo's coaching, schemes or what, but he's had his card these last couple years and played really, really well against Michigan State this year.
Yeah, he took down Michigan State twice. Michigan State, who averages 69 points a game, was held to 55 and 57 by the Terps in their 2 games. That's pretty dang good, especially in a season where we've mostly just played the Big Ten.
Right.
So that average is not bloated by Michigan State playing a bunch of cupcakes.
Right.
So I found that pretty interesting. And with 2 totally different game plans. I mean, you remember that game 1. Basically, what it was we avoided the offensive rebounds.
Yep.
If the ball went off someone's fingers, team bailed out. That
No
gave you
second chance points
It
at
gave
all.
you a 3 to 5 second head start,
Yep.
and you had a set defense they had to play against, which was genius.
Right.
I don't know how giving up every rebound in the game worked, but it worked wonders.
Yep.
And in this game, they didn't. They hit it every once in a while. It was one of those things like Jeremy Kahn talked about last week. They got into it and they got out of it, so they couldn't get used to it.
Right.
2 offensive rebounds in the first game, and 10 offensive rebounds in the second game. So you see they really went back to it.
Right. And the other thing with that Michigan State game that was a little opposite of the way the Terps usually play, especially when they're going to lose a game, is usually when they're going to lose a game, they come out strong. They usually take a 10-point lead or whatever. Well, they fell behind by, what was it, 12 or 13. I texted you and I said,
like, this game's going to be ugly. I'm like, hey, at least we're trying something different. Just calm down.
And thank God for that text, because right after I texted you that, everything changed,
Turned
man.
around. We couldn't figure out what Texas sent against Michigan, though. I don't know what, it wasn't working.
I avoided the text during that game at all.
So let's talk Michigan game then.
Yeah.
First 15 minutes of the Michigan game was the best basketball they played all year long.
It was.
I mean, Michigan's a 1 seed, and we were leading by as many as 12 points for the first 15 minutes.
Yep. And you should have known that this was going to go bad when they play that well that early.
It was amazing. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. We've been running out to these leads. We've been holding people early, and it just falls apart. And who wants to just avoid that? But it almost feels like we have to.
I know.
This team plays as underdogs, and when they're not, and somehow they convince themselves they're not underdogs in the first 10 minutes, apparently.
Yeah.
And just fall apart.
Yeah, I don't know if it was adjustments that, Michigan made. Now, granted, listen, Michigan's one of the best teams in the country, not just one of the best teams in the conference. They're one of the best teams in the country. They're going to beat you up with the size that they have down low, and that was part of this. They're going to get a lot of second chance opportunities. They're going to get a lot of defensive rebounds. They're going to dominate you down low. And eventually, once Maryland started to cool off, because honestly, they were shooting on a clip. I think they were shooting, when they had that 15-point lead, they were like 70% from the field.
68% from the field.
Yeah, at that point. And you knew that they were to come back down to earth after that. But Michigan stayed consistent throughout the entire game.
Yeah, Michigan erased that lead to a 2-point lead at the first half and just kept going from there.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the bad from the games. No late game production continues.
Yep.
So just because they weren't tired of the Michigan State game does not mean they weren't tired by the fourth quarter of Michigan State game or the fourth quarter, the second half of the first. Why don't we just play quarters in college basketball?
I've never understood it.
It doesn't make any sense.
I've never understood it.
Everybody else plays it. Just go back to
even the women's games quarters.
The
right?
women's, everyone but men's college basketball. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
It's got to be a TV thing. It's got to be these timeouts. It's got
right.
But outscored 10-3 in the final 5 minutes versus MSU and outscored 12-5 in the final 5 minutes versus Michigan. We just aren't deep enough.
Yeah,
and that's where this problem's going to run into.
7-man rotation comes into play. You just don't have the depth, and you get tired. And they spent all their energy, especially when you play back to back like that.
Yeah. After Lundy had that showing against us for 31 points in Penn State, more unexpected people having big games. Malik Hall for MSU averages just 5 points in 17 minutes per game. Thank God they didn't play him more because he had 19 points in 23 minutes. If they would have found that out a little earlier and left him on the court, we could have been in trouble. And then against Michigan, all 5'11" of Mike Smith.
That little
went
guy.
for a double-double. Looks like Ezekiel Elliott out there.
Yeah, it looks like a miniature Ezekiel Elliott, though, man. And he is just, even Mark Turgeon talked about it after the game. Like, he is just super athletic. He's super quick. pretty much everything that he threw up went in.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that guy's the real deal. He was a transfer, right?
Yeah, as a transfer. They doubled his average of 9 points to 18 and tripled his average assists from 5 to 15. He had a hell of a game for him.
Yeah, so not only was he scoring, he was getting everybody else involved.
Something that's not in the outline here, but just to mention, I'd heard today, Mr. Lundy, who dropped 31 points on us, just entered the transfer portal. So, hey, bro, I won't hate you anymore. Come on down.
You look real good in red and black and gold.
You played super well in our building. Come on down.
Podcast. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of show and tell.
All right, so we got to talk about the ugly from these two games. I think the ugliest part was the most entertaining part of these two games, anyway, at least for me. You had the Juwan Howard and the Turgeon shouting match, and I'm going to kill you, mother, or whatever happened. At least that's what the rumors were on Twitter is what he said. What was your take on that whole situation?
Yeah, the fight didn't bother me as much as the post game. Like, because you can get a guy angry. That's not hard. Like, you're in the heat of the moment. You want your guys to win. You're like a father figure in this coaching role. So, like, you can get under somebody's skin, even if it's like something subtly innocent, like don't talk to me, because some people get really offended by dumb things. Like that's what Turgeon said. Don't talk to me. I'm not letting you talk to me, and he went off. Is what Turgeon says. Right. Of course, there's what Turgeon says. There's what Juwan Howard says, and then there's what actually happened.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, apparently this was an ongoing issue that's been going on the last couple of games because Turge apparently had already talked to the Big Ten commissioner about some of the comments I guess Juwan Howard's made in previous matchups.
Yeah, I mean, Juwan Howard and his little stepchild Dickinson over there, they wouldn't shut up in
Fuck
any of the
that guy,
games.
Dickinson.
Fuck Dickinson.
Yeah, I can't stand that dude.
And why in the
Fuck
Big
him,
Ten do
just
you have
fuck
a penis named center to be any fucking good? You gotta have Cockbird and Dickinson.
Oh man,
I don't understand. Where's our Schlong Johnson over here? We gotta get our new center.
and he's a local guy, right? This is the guy that was from Maryland.
This is the guy that whined and complained and said we didn't recruit him out of DeMatha.
Exactly.
He's completely full of shit. We offered him as a sophomore. We were all over it. He wanted to go away for school,
Right.
which going away is not Maryland because it was literally 10 minutes from his fucking house. So we stopped looking at him because he wanted to go away.
Right.
And so now he's offended. Also, this guy's freshman of the year. He turns 21 this year. What the
super
hell?
freshman.
Did you fail 5th grade twice? What are you doing?
No,
How
he
is that
started
possible?
school late, Ryan.
How he was locked in a closet till he was 8.
He went on a mission.
Oh, jeez, get out of here with that.
But he was throwing shade at Daryl Morcell with
He's
the whole
he's not a
defensive
Mormon.
player of the year.
I have seen a lot of Mormons. That's a whine ass, mean, fucking angry Mormon. That's not the way to do that. Holy God, he's threatening people in the court. That's not it.
But all in all, even after that,
Yeah, so the Juwan Howard thing that got me, I guess we kind of had sidetracked there, was the post game interview. So the post game interview, after he got kicked off the court, he's had 35 minutes to chill the fuck out and wait for media to show up.
right?
He still goes out there, doesn't deflate it at all, says that, I don't know about you, I was raised by my grandmother and Chicago. I was raised on the south side of Chicago.
What?
Okay.
Is this a head coach speaking?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I did not think in any way, shape, or form they needed to find that man until that. I thought for sure the Big Ten was going to be like, bro, chill out. I knew it wasn't going to hurt his recruiting because the 18-year-old kids are going to love that shit. They're going to go to Michigan. But I really thought the Big Ten would be like, hey, let's not like make threats in a like what is I was raised by the south side of Chicago means. It means I know how to fucking handle myself and I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Like
you can take Juwan out of the hood, but you
we
can't take the hood out of Juwan. Exactly.
Yeah, there's no other way to say that.
Yeah.
Like, so how did they just let him get away with it? I have no idea. But that's what Turgeon's anger was, is that
Right.
he had
And
been complaining all year and the Big Ten was doing nothing.
And to that point, if he's saying that kind of stuff to the media,
The
like
media,
where
in person, 35 minutes later, what's
Right.
he saying to the players and coaches?
Exactly.
You won the game too.
Exactly.
Like,
And you were
won
with
the
a
game.
lead.
Shut
right.
up.
And I'm usually pretty good at, and then I not that I can read lips professionally or anything. I'm usually pretty good at being able to read lips, but when they've got masks on, obviously that makes that difficult. So I'm like really intrigued to know what was said. I've never seen Turgeon get that fired up. I mean,
Wait,
he
call
went
Scott.
on
He
a
reads lips
beeline.
real life.
Yeah.
Probably not a goddamn thing. It's just someone who has a little bit of a complex
Hey,
and has a little
100%.
bit of a power right now, and he's on one of these teams and something goes wrong a little bit ways, and he wants to stretch out. Like you said, 35 minutes
Yeah.
late after the game, you're still beefing for no reason.
I
Like,
truly believe this was just that Juwan was already mad that he had been reported by Turgeon to the
Probably,
Big Ten
yeah.
on multiple occasions, and the Big Ten done nothing. So Turgeon had said, "You're not going to talk to me," because that's what the whole of the complaints were, was that players and coaches are not supposed to be communicating on the sidelines,
Right.
nor are they supposed to be communicating from the floor to the opposing.
He was
bench.
on the other side of
Which-
the
He was
half
on
court.
way outside the coaching box.
Yeah.
And Dickinson, who I'm referring to on the floor, was literally after every bucket walk over towards Turge and talk at Turge and his bench. 100% he should have been teed up for that every time.
Right.
And they should have done something about it. So it just built to this. I don't think there's any chance, by the way that we are matched up, that we will get to an Elite Eight to see these guys again. But holy crap, would that be a game?
We have been dying for some sort of rivalry ever since we left the ACC. Like, we have no rivalry in the Big Ten.
I got one.
Maybe
Found
we
one.
finally found one.
I will be, if they let fans back in, I promise you, no matter what these tickets are, I will be at every Michigan game
Oh,
until
right there
Dickinson
with you.
graduates.
100%. All right, well, listen, so it didn't end there with the Terps, even though we had to hold our breath through the whole bracketology selection committee show and all that stuff. It didn't happen until literally the last portion of the last bracket.
Yeah.
But the Terps do get into the NCAA tournament. They ended up being a 10 seed, which is what your prediction was going to be a 10 seed as well. But they end up drawing a matchup in what was one of Jeremy Kahn's, underdog teams, or team to keep an eye on, as they got a first-round matchup with UConn.
Yeah, UConn, they got some serious guard play. They definitely have the ability to score in the backcourt. They do not have much front court talent. They're right there with us. So it's not one of those dominant big men that are just going to tear us apart. Though, again, we just played Michigan, and Dickinson only scored 6 points. Right. It wasn't the dominant thing that he did the other 2 games. So they have figured out a little bit of something. Galen Smith's playing better, and Dante Scott has always been a good defensive option down the post. Yeah, not so much on the offensive side of the post, but
yeah. I mean, listen, I like UConn. They can score, like you said. They've got a good backcourt. But I think with Maryland's D, if they can garner enough energy to play 40 minutes of basketball, right, and they can actually play from start to finish, I think they can fare well in this game. I think they can hold their own and be in it at least until the end of the game. It's going to come down to shooting with both of these teams because, like you said, neither one of them are built to dominate down low.
Who scores 65?
Yeah, who scores 65 first? Will Aaron Wiggins be the Aaron Wiggins that we've seen of late, where he takes over a game like he should be doing because he's the best player on the court when he's out there?
And will Ayala come with him?
And will Ayala – exactly. You can't have Ayala going 2 for 12. If he goes 2 for 12, this team has got no chance of beating UConn, in my opinion.
I'm receiving text message from my cousin who's trash talking me in the.
I was wondering what you're like giggling about. I'm like, am I missing something?
Yeah, he said, "Well, how do I call into the show?" I said, "Just comment on the screen." So his comment is, "This guy on the right doesn't seem to like sports." Good job, Mike. I might not know sports like this one, but I think I kind of like them.
All right, man. Let's switch from the hard court over to the football field. And I know there's not a whole lot going on with the football squad, but I think the big story right now. And I don't know, in my opinion, I think this guy's got a better potential pro career than a couple of recent Terps that were drafted as running backs in the NFL. Jake Funk, man, he had his Maryland Pro Day the other day, and the numbers that he put up were absolutely insane.
Yep. 4.43 40, 38-yard vertical, which is absolutely insane.
Or 38 inch.
Yeah, 38 foot, man.
38
the first rounder. It is. We do have marked there as foot. Yep. Yeah. 10.2 broad jump, 22 reps at 225. 6.71 cone drill,
which is crazy,
which is really good. Yeah, you put these comparisons there. I'll let you.
Yeah.
Do that.
So if you're looking at comparisons, right, on the vert jump specifically, Ezekiel Elliott was 32.5. His Funk's 38. Derrick Henry, pretty good back, 37-inch. Christian McCaffrey, 37-inch. So when you're comparing it to some of the better backs in the NFL right now.
Christian McCaffrey is kind of comparable in size and like what?
Didn't know where you were going with that.
And he's white. Is that where you were going?
I thought you were going.
I'm just saying, like, Christian McCaffrey was questioned whether he could be a lead back because of his size. Yeah. I mean, Jake Funk's came in at 205, I believe.
I don't think he has an ounce of fat on his body.
Oh, my. Yeah, dude, let me tell you. I was going to put his picture up here.
I couldn't do it because I was like, I'm going to embarrass myself.
He took underwear Olympics to a whole new meaning. This dude literally ran in his underwear. Yeah. And he looked like a Greek god. Like, I don't know what. They need to rename the weight room after Jake Funk. I have no idea. This dude's been there 5 years, and he has used all 5 years to lift weights.
Yeah, well, that's just
the DK Metcalf of this year.
It's a family thing, though, man. I mean, his brother obviously has all the rehab
Dr.
facilities
Josh Funk
and all that.
PT. Yeah, he was on the Shell and Tell show a couple of weeks ago.
This entire family has Division I football, college lacrosse,
all the way
background.
to grandma and grandpa were both Division I athletes.
Exactly. So I mean, this started as a kid. You know, he's been bred for this moment. Now, granted, he's been through a lot of BS. I mean, he's had 2 really bad ACL tears in his career. So for him to rehab twice through that, still come back and put up the kind of stats that he put up this past year. He needed to, right? Because he needed to be able to prove to scouts that he could still play, right? I'm not saying that Jake Funk is going to have a 10-year, like a Frank Gore type of career in the NFL. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think because of his football IQ, because of his athletic ability, because of the drive that he has up here, right? For him to go through that twice.
Coach Funk. Everyone went to him for the playbook and how to learn the offense.
I think that this guy on the right system, could have a very good NFL career. It might be short, and it might be only a 5-year career, but I think he can have a very productive 5 years.
There was a reason 20 scouts went to our 4-player pro day.
Yeah.
All we had was 4 players.
Yep.
So I think it was him. I mean, you look at the Patriots, that'd be a really interesting landing spot for him. They've had similar like positionless players, and they like the running back by committee. Obviously, could be used on special teams.
Is it because they like white running backs as well?
I mean, it's also just
joking with it.
No, but you look at a guy like Chris Hogan a couple of years ago. He didn't even play college football, and he was their number 1 wide receiver. Yeah. Like they're out of box thinkers up there with the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I'll never question Bill Belichick and
Tampa Bay running back room. You got the history with TB12 again with the Patriot system. Kind of understands those kind of players. You got Mike
potentially
Alstott.
Losing Leonard Fournette, so they're going to have a hole there.
Yeah, you got the Mike Alstott history where you've seen like a similar just bulky fucking muscle-bound godlike figure running over people.
Right.
So it'd be interesting.
49ers, I think, might makes a lot of sense down there too. Obviously, they've got kind of a running back by committee down there. They don't really have that one dominant back. Kyle Juszczyk just obviously signed a big deal down there. I think a 5-year deal.
Yeah, I'd update the notes. So my notes originally in this week said Kyle Juszczyk replacement, and then they re-signed him for 5 years, and I'm like, Kyle Juszczyk understudy.
So you think he'd be more used as a fullback kind of hybrid?
I think he could absolutely play that. We talked on the Shell and Tell podcast with his brother. Like his short yardage was missed strongly in that Temple game. We win that Temple game with him, in my opinion. Yeah. Instead of running Anthony McFarland at the 1-yard line 3 times. Right. That's not. Anthony McFarland's really good. That's not his bag. You look at those legs; they can move you 1 yard.
Well, let's get an early draft prediction out there. Where do you see him being drafted, or do you not see him being drafted? You see him being signed as an undrafted free agent?
I think he'll get drafted. I think you see him as a 6th rounder, probably
6th.
At some time, the last day is 5th, 6th, 7th, right?
Yeah, 3rd. Yeah,
yeah. So he's a last day draft pick. If I had to put money on it, I would honestly probably go with the 49ers.
Yeah,
because I think the Patriots would think they're smarter than everybody and want to pick him up as an undrafted free agent.
Okay.
What about the Ravens?
Ravens just don't take Terps. They just don't do it. Only Torrey Smith. That's it.
Torrey Smith, Jermaine Lewis. They've taken a couple.
Or you could go to the Texans.
Maybe. I'm not going to put a prediction. I don't know who he's going to go to as far as team goes. It's going to depend on free agency and all that stuff. But I do think his ceiling as far as draft, in my opinion, late 4th, early 5th. I think his floor is like mid 6th would be like the lowest I would see him go.
Yeah, I could easily see him be a 5th rounder.
Yeah.
I don't 4th feels like a stretch, but I hope he gets it.
I think if the right team, again, you had 20 teams there looking at him, right? If the right team thinks that he'd be the right fit, running backs are going to go really quickly, especially now that you're starting to see some really good running backs come off the board earlier. In the draft, like, the 2nd round and late 1st round where you weren't seeing that for years, you're starting to see them start to kind of climb up the board. The 3rd round is where a cluster of them go. And then I think you might see Funk towards the end of the 4th round. I think.
So right where Anthony McFarland got drafted, basically, right?
Yeah, somewhere similar to that. I think he might be a couple slots, in my opinion, ahead of Anthony McFarland.
Is Matt Canada just going to go pick him up too? Or are we all just going to stack the Steelers with Terps running backs?
I don't really care where he ends up. I just hope he has a good career. I don't want to see him in Pittsburgh, though. That's like the one area. I'd almost be okay with seeing him in Patriots in New England than I would be in Pittsburgh.
Little off topic, but what's going on with their running back situation? Wasn't he supposed to be a free agent?
Who?
Their starting running back.
James Conner?
James Conner.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't
seen anything about it.
Yeah.
He's free, but the running back market soon enough is going to be.
That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. Your mic's off.
Sorry.
Try again.
Bathroom break.
Yeah, you're good.
I think the running back market is going to be so thin this year with already being that lower cap and the uncertainty there. You're going to see guys like him, like theirs are the prove it deals where you're going somewhere where there's like a clusterfuck of running backs. He's not going to.
I've been waiting for him to leave just so that McFarland gets a shot.
He probably is. I got to
at least give him a call out. Big Snack. I've seen it by a couple people. I don't know what it is. Big Snack's in the house. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know if that's like a Facebook group or what's going on, but I like it. Either way, whoever it is. All right, man. So there were some things happening last week as far as recruiting goes that we were going to talk about, but we didn't because we went a little long with Jeremy on the show and whatnot. What's going on in the recruiting world for the football squad?
Yeah, so this was definitely from last week. One of the things I missed. One of the most interesting recruiting stories I can ever come up with.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Nair Graham decommits last Monday.
Nair Graham was a linebacker that had committed from New Jersey.
Yep, 3-star out of New Jersey, high-end 3-star, one of the top players in the state of New Jersey. Just decommits, never talked to anybody. The coaches didn't know what was going on.
Got to make the best decision for me. He put a couple tweets out and said that his recruit was 100% open.
So about 4 hours later, he recommits.
No, 4 hours later, the tweets disappear
The tweets
first.
disappear.
Yeah, the
And
tweets
2 hours
disappear.
after that, he recommits, and the stories start coming out. Apparently, this guy receives a phone call from someone identifying as a Terps coach. Not sure which Terps coach they were pretending to be. Not sure if they even identified which Terps coach they were, which is will be also stupid if you didn't ask who he's talking to. But the guy was told, hey, we're having these linebacker issues. We're going to be really stacked in position. We don't have any room for your scholarship. You should decommit so it doesn't look like we pulled your offer.
Right.
And so he does. And then the Terps coaches reach out and are like,
What's
bro,
going on,
why
bro?
are you ghosting us? What did we do? And they're like, you told me to decommit. He's like, no, we didn't. That wasn't us. Like, talk to us first. So not only was that the case, but then later it comes out that he had screenshots. Somebody was pretending to be him and asking coaches for money because he lost his phone and all this stuff, like asking like little stupid things, not like, hey, pay me $10,000 to play for the Terps.
I need $20 for a taxi.
I need $20 because I lost my phone and I can't get a new one until tomorrow. It's like shit. This dude's getting totally catfished completely.
Yeah.
So originally when I thought it was the whole like phone call thing, I'm thinking, who is this? Is this James Franklin in Penn State trying to get under our skin?
Right.
Is this, our new coach at Rutgers trying to get his players to stay home? But now I'm thinking he pissed somebody off at his high school and they're fucking winning.
Right.
Like somebody just don't like you.
It's definitely one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard. But again, Nair Graham was a important piece for this linebacker core coming in, especially if you're going to have to start the year with a banged up Lewis, who's got the knee issue. They're not 100% sure if he's going to miss time or not, yet or not.
Yeah, so what Lewis might be into the 2022 class with Nair Graham is what you're saying.
Right, yeah. Exactly. All right, so in other news, it's kind of small news, but we talk about the quarterback position all the time and having enough depth there. I know we've got some guys that are, not under scholarship that are there. We do have the kid coming from VMI who's lighting the world on fire up there.
Actively playing, which is terrifying.
Doing very well, but unfortunately he's going to be coming here and have to learn on the fly because he's just not going to be able to be here through practices and spring and everything, so he's got to wait for that season to end. They did end up getting another preferred walk-on. Quarterback Ryan Dwell, 6'3", 205 pounds. Tell me a little bit about this kid.
This is a kid, 4.3 GPA, so you're probably able to get him in here on a full ride academically,
right?
And therefore you don't have to waste the scholarship. I wasn't overly impressed by his tape. The highlight tape was mostly first read touchdowns and wide open receivers, so I'm a little bit questioning what defenses he was playing against, but the kid had a strong arm, obviously smart. We need signal callers. Like you said, we only have the VMI quarterback transfer and Talia as scholarship quarterbacks. We do have our non-scholarship quarterback last year that looked pretty good, but we just need bodies. I mean, we've had so many decommit.
Appreciate that, George.
So many people move on to lower level football. So many people with injuries that careers ended that you just need bodies in that quarterback room.
Right.
So it's good to get that this late in the market for 2021.
Yeah, again, just got to have depth there. You don't want to be getting into your linebacker core like we have in the past that go out there.
He looks like he's got a good frame. He's obviously coachable, so maybe he'll be something someday, man.
Right.
We can see what we got.
Well, the important piece to your quarterback group is keeping them up, right, and having a good offensive line. And obviously, about 2 months ago at this point, we knew that we were going to end up losing Johnny Jordan, who ended up transferring out, and I think he went to, was it Virginia Tech? Yeah, he ended up going to Virginia Tech.
Hokie Land.
So that leaves a hole at the middle of the offensive line, but the Terps were able to get a new piece this week.
Yeah, this is a 2022 commit, I believe. Colton Deary, 6'3", 275, 3-star center. Also played some DT, but it sounds like he's coming in as our center.
Right.
Offers from Air Force, Albany, Akron. Rumor has it he just wanted to be offered by somebody that didn't start with an A, so Maryland came around.
Sounds about right.
And they decided to sign with us.
I mean, everything that I saw on this guy as far as tape goes looks good. He's got good size. Like right away, I think this kid could play young. We're going to need him to play young because unless we get another transfer in here going into next year, I mean, he's going to be the guy, right? We don't have anybody that I know of on the roster right now that could be a potential starter at center in 2022.
No, I don't know of one. Most of his highlight tape seemed to be at offensive guard and DT. There wasn't a lot of him playing center, but apparently he has played some. It's hard to get highlight as a center because you're basically snapping the ball and holding your man still. Like there's not a lot of action. Right. So the pulling guard tapes look a lot better. But with this offer list, with the service academies, I love seeing that, especially from like quarterback, center, like play calling type positions where you have to keep up things because it usually is really high academically to get in. You got intelligent people, driven people, and that's what you need in these positions.
All right, so overview with the decommit, recommit, our new commit. Where's this put our ranking with this class?
So we're 21st in the country for the 2022 class. Fifth in the Big Ten.
Got it.
Which is still fifth in the Big Ten East.
Yeah.
Which is
Big Ten
unbelievable.
East is stacked.
And then the Big Ten East is a weird mix. So, of course, you expect Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan being ahead of us. How is Rutgers still ahead of us?
Yeah.
I mean, you got your new coach, Greg Schiano, up there. So it's a
doing something
new shiny name, and hopefully that will fall apart soon.
Car wash is raising some money.
Yeah. I mean, strippers, maybe.
All right, Ryan, it's time for this week's Liquor Stop Brew of the Week.
All right.
And what did Jerry and the crew hook us up with this week?
Jerry
Stay
and
crooked.
the crew sent us up with some very interesting cans here. I don't know if you want to zoom in on just me here, James. We got cool artwork here. The Stay Crooked can. I think the artwork might be slightly better than the beer, but it's really good artwork, so that's not anything to say here.
This is from Crooked Crab Brewing Company up in Odenton.
Yeah, so it says that it's an easy drinking beer. It says to read the can here. So Surgeon General warning. No, I'm just kidding. Classic easy drinking. The West Coast Pale Ale boosts smooth balance and bitterness from citrusy Cascade and Cashmere hops. It's pretty good. It's a little bit more bitter than something that I would usually drink, but it's very smooth. Drinkable, 5.5. It's right above your Miller Lights and everything. It's anything that's going to put you on down.
Yeah. I know Crooked Crab has recently won quite a few awards, for independent crafts. It's a very good beer. I mean, it's if you're a fan of pale ales, it's a pretty good one, I think. And again, it's a local, so local support and local.
And it's a pint, so it's always good.
Yeah. What is it? 5.5 ABV too. So not too strong, but not too light.
They're trying
either.
to hit a lot of categories here, man. This artwork's got like an old
artwork
school
is
Nintendo
badass.
controller,
Yeah.
like a Beat You stick, some diamonds. I don't know, a cassette tape. Who knew what a cassette tape is? This is for older drinkers.
This is definitely for the older generation.
Speaking of that, the guy that invented the
Cassette tape?
cassette tape passed away this week.
Really?
About 20 years ago, or like today?
No, yesterday.
Oh,
Interesting.
He's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, make sure you get up to Liquor Stop. Tell Jerry and the crew up there that Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. All right, Ryan. Or should I say, all right, Drew.
Bows, bros, and O's.
It's time for some bros, bows, and O's. We had some more, in my opinion, some depressing news announced. I'll talk about that in a minute. Before we get into that, I do want to talk about some more breaking news. The Orioles ended up signing a guy today, or at least officially signed him today. Third baseman, I think the way you pronounce this is actually Michael Franco, right?
Yeah.
He passed the O's physical today. He's a former.
Hey, that's saying something now.
Yeah, right. He's the former Phillies top prospect, first round pick. He's been kind of a bust, in my opinion, what he's done so far in his major league career. But last year, I mean, he hit 278 for the Royals, which is an upgrade over, Rio Ruiz. The Rio Ruiz, I think, hit somewhere around 220 last year. And I think in a smaller ballpark like Camden Yards, Franco gives you a little bit more pop than I think Rio Ruiz does. So it's not a huge upgrade, but again, you get him on the cheap. You get him for $800,000 salary with $200,000 incentives. I think it's a piece that kind of like what we've talked about with some of these veteran pitchers, that if he comes in, plays good, and they can flip him, it's worth the signing.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. to me, that doesn't hurt. Like you're going to bring a far better bat to Rio. Sorry, I can't get the thing.
Yeah, you sound like Scott Garceau.
Yeah, dude. You're going to bring far better pop than him, because I'm not going to try to repeat it again.
There you go.
In a stadium where obviously the home run ball is king.
Yeah.
He takes the back seat glove wise, but it's not like it's some detriment where he's a third baseman, but he shouldn't be a third baseman. It's just the only position you can put him in besides DH.
Right.
Or like in the National League, you didn't have DH.
Right.
But I'm intrigued because it didn't cost a lot.
Yeah.
It's either he comes in and does jack shit, okay, well, you don't have high expectations for the team anyway.
Right.
Or he comes in and does really good, and you flip him. That's what everyone says. Or even, hell, if he comes in and does good, what if you do keep him around for a couple years? What if that is a piece? I mean, maybe it isn't, but like I said, then that's just the, to the moon idea. But like I said, to me, it doesn't hurt. And I like him. I thought it was a good signing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think he's a great defender. I think it makes a lot of sense. Chris Davis can sneeze and make $800,000. Like that's just it doesn't cost you a whole lot of money.
Statistics of his contract.
Yeah, right. The only concern I have is the same concern I have with the pitching staff. Right, if you bring a guy like this in when you have absolutely no intentions of winning. Does it block the potential growth of a younger guy for these, or do the Orioles not even see like a guy like what's his name, Ryland Bannon?
Ryland Bannon, yeah,
right.
I like him.
I like him too, but if your plan is I'm only holding on to this guy for 4 months because I'm going to flip him anyway, and your plan was not to have Ryland Bannon come up in those 4 months, is he really blocking anything? What do they do with Rio Ruiz at that point? Do they move this guy around? Maybe, like you said, Franco, maybe he doesn't just play third base. Maybe he plays a little bit of first base to give maybe Trey Mancini a little bit of rest. Maybe he takes some at-bats at DH because now Chris Davis isn't going to be your DH, right? So I'm okay with it from that perspective, but do you think that this blocks a guy like Ryland?
No.
Okay.
Because Ryland, I don't think Bannon was going to be on the Major League roster in April anyway.
Right.
I mean, May or June at the earliest, and that was before, bringing Franco in.
Right.
I think, and I say it enough, not having a real season last year really did put a hiccup in this rebuild plan that we have. So with guys like that, like Bannon, that are on the like even Diaz, because we don't know what Diaz is yet. I mean, he was that big piece in the Machado deal, and they optioned him to AAA today. I think that not having the real season last year really kind of hindered those kind of guys that would have probably been at Norfolk last year, and now you're seeing guys like them, they're going to Norfolk because there's other guys that are just blocking the spots. I mean, you got two center fielders that legit are playing well enough and showing enough in spring training, like they deserve the roster. There's no roster spots really available.
Yeah, but my point with that is the guys that you're talking about blocking a guy like Diaz are all pieces that could potentially be part of the future.
Yeah.
Right? Like Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, Ryan Mountcastle, that's your outfield group, and they're all pieces that could be part of the future. When you bring in a guy like Franco isn't a part of your future. Franco's guy that he's either going to be here for 4 months and you flip him, or he's going to be here for this entire season. If he is here for this entire season, then at that point, he is blocking a guy that could potentially be part of your future. That's my only qualm about it. But, I'm not Mike Elias. I don't know what his timetable is for Ryland Bannon. It could be completely different than what I'd like to see him up here now, because Rio Ruiz is not a piece to the future. I mean, a guy hitting 220, you better have a better option than that.
I have a feeling he's not. I think he's getting cut before the end of the month.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he'd have to really show something in the next couple of weeks.
I know Elias talked today that
it doesn't hurt to just pull the Band-Aid and just cut a guy like that.
Right. Elias did say today in his interview, because a lot of the people asked him about this signing and everything, and he did say there is a world where these guys both make the roster.
Okay.
But, that they could move Franco around, kind of like I said, as a DH or a first baseman. But it'll be interesting to see.
Interesting thing I heard on 105.7 today, which was like news to them, so I think it might be news to you guys. Little contract thing with the Players Association, the owners for this year, was that COVID replacements don't actually have to be on the 40-man or 46-man roster. So you can bring up players and not start their clock. So Adley Rushman could get, 50 bats in the MLB this year and not start his clock because he's just designated COVID replacement.
I
so
think
if
that
someone
was
goes
true.
down,
I think that was true last year as well.
yeah, but so it was just
That's why-
looking about not losing these players and still getting them experience.
They already said Franco's making the team because they're going to put Harvey on IR.
Yeah,
he
Harvey's
took
going
his-
on. Oh,
he
man, we're
took
going to talk
his-
about that in a
Oh,
second.
Yeah, I know. I hate the. Yeah, we'll get to there.
Yeah, that sucks. All right, before we get there, though, I do kind of want to talk about, in my opinion, the bigger story, just because of how big of a piece he's been for this organization for so long, and a piece that I never wanted to see, not in an Orioles uniform. But Nick Markakis, as you see back here, 21-10, officially announced that he's going to be retiring from baseball after his 15-year MLB career. Nick, for me, I mean, he's the ultimate pro, the ultimate professional. This guy has been a winner, and he's been a lead by example kind of guy since day one, since he stepped in. He's drafted back in 2003, number 7 overall with the Orioles. When you look at the numbers that this guy put up, I'm not saying that he's got Hall of Fame type of numbers or anything. He definitely has Orioles Hall of Fame numbers, and I hope he comes back to retire as an Oriole. But it's sad to see, that's an era of baseball that he went through a lot of shit, man. He went through a lot of years here of losing, and then he got those last couple of years where we actually turned things around. Buck Showalter came in and changed the tide and all.
It's only him and Brian Roberts for plenty of years. We didn't have anybody else really to talk about.
Yeah, we really didn't. But again, he was very good in the community. He wasn't a me guy, he never saw him in the media, and when he did, he was very short and just kind of soft-spoken guy. But he was also, from what you hear about him in the locker room, was when he spoke, people listen. When he gave a message, it was a strong message, right? And like I said, lead by example. Yeah. He kind of took Adam Jones under his wing when Adam Jones got traded over here from Seattle. And they formed a strong relationship together. Obviously, like I said, the 21-10, and they become really good friends. Adam put out a pretty emotional tweet, congratulating Nick on his retirement and everything. What's your take on? I mean, I've obviously spelled out my emotions with Nick Markakis. What's your take on Cakes?
So we were talking about it before the show. I don't have an actual moment with him where, like you say, a Delman Cruz moment,
Right.
I mean, Delman Young moment.
Yeah.
He didn't really have a lot of those moments ish, but I think like he alluded to, I remember going to games and the only thing you could root for was Nick Markakis and Brian Roberts.
Yeah.
And it was no matter, how hard it was to be a fan of those teams, you still had your guy, or if it was, if it was Roberts, but to me it was Nick over Roberts.
Right.
You still had your guy that just went out there no matter what, played baseball because he loved playing the goddamn game, and like you just said, consummate professional. Never you never really heard a bad story about him.
No.
Which is awesome. I mean, even some guys like Jones, you could kind of hear little stories here and there. You can find some stories of guys. You can't find anything negative to say about Nick.
No, you really
at
can't.
all.
If I had to tell you who are my 2 favorite Orioles of all time, they're very similar in that mindset as far as gamers, guys that went out and gave 110% effort every game, no matter if they were winning or losing. Markakis obviously being one, BJ Surhoff being the other.
Yeah, it's a good one. And they're almost kind of carbon copy.
They are.
Yeah.
And in their effort and the way that they went about business, very similar players. It's, again, an end of an era, man. It's and he went out still playing very good baseball, you know, and he still actually lives here in Maryland. So I think he's coming back and wants to raise his kids and all that stuff. It'll be interesting. I know Scott jokes around about it all the time. I know Adam has went public about saying, oh, I'd love to, manage the Orioles one day. How cool would it be to see that 21-10 connection come back in some sort of coaching fashion?
Yeah,
any
fashion.
Yeah, right. Yeah. To see Adam Jones be a manager and Cakes out there as either a hitting coach or an outfielder coach or, whatever it might be. I hope that that's in the Orioles' future. I think it would bode well for fans, one, and just the experience and the intelligence, I think, would be a good thing for this team when they're ready to finally take that next step.
Yeah, and that's the other like negative thing, sad thing for him is you got over that cusp, and it seemed like the two like really good years where you had a shot to make a run, he got hurt.
Right.
And it always just really sucked. But we were talking about it before the show. Even when they won the division, how happy he looked.
That
no
moment,
matter what, like
you talk about moments, right? There's
there you go.
because he was so consistent in his play. There wasn't that one that was like, oh my God, like that game he hit 4 home runs. It wasn't that about Case. He was consistent every day. But that moment where you just saw like everything kind of come out of him, all the raw emotions of him when Ryan Wagner announced, you're 2014 Baltimore Oriole AL East champions, and the genuine smile that came across his face, which Nick Markakis doesn't smile very often, right? He's just a very like ho-hum kind of guy. It was just a really, really cool moment. And I know I've told this story before, another moment for me with Markakis, and the moment I knew he was going to be a major leaguer quick, was when he was in Aberdeen. I went to one of the games to go watch him, and ball was hit down the field, down the line. He was playing right field. Guy was on first base. He tried to stretch it over to third, and from the corner of right field, threw a frozen rope, no hop, no nothing, straight to the third baseman and threw this guy out. I've never seen a throw like that on the professional level, get alone in the minor leagues. This is low-level single A, right? He was 18 or not 18. He might have been like 20 years old at that time. He was super young. And his arm strength was absolutely ridiculous.
You just didn't run on him either. Like,
no,
in on the big league club, like it didn't matter any year. Like, Nick Markakis came out with you ain't stretched out to a double, son. Just stay there.
Got a Puig-like rocket without the Puig attitude.
Man, he had a cannon, dude, and it carried over to his playing days for many years. The last couple of years of his career, his arm kind of tailed off a little bit, but people still respected him in that sense, So. Good luck to Cakes in retirement, man. Wish him nothing but the best, but hope to see him again involved with the Orioles or in an Oriole uniform at some point.
Well, maybe we'll see him at the yard now that the Orioles have announced the 11,000 fans are allowed. We're going to get a bump in attendance this year, guys.
Yeah. This, I guess the Maryland Stadium Authority and the governor said that they were allowing 25% capacity, right?
Yes, the governor said 50, and then Baltimore City and the Stadium Authority agreed at 25, which is
11,000,
which is more people than any game that's not a Friday versus the Yankees the year before.
I'll bet you any amount of money there are more people standing outside that stadium on opening day than there are in the stadium. 100% there will be a ton, and I'll be one of them. If I can't find tickets, I'm going to do everything I can to find tickets to get one of those 11,000. But if I can, I'm 100% I will be down there at that stadium.
Goddamn dentist appointment.
Yeah. But listen, this team, set your expectations low. I know last year, we ran into some things.
They surprised last year.
They did surprise. They were a good hitting team last year, but they let a couple of their good hitters go. There's going to be some really good stretches of baseball with some of this youth, and then there's going to be some bad stretches of baseball, right? The pitching rotation is going to be, I think, one of the biggest question marks. One of the hopeful pieces we kind of hit on it earlier that we had in the bullpen was seeing Hunter Harvey kind of stay on the field and plant some roots.
He doesn't do that.
That doesn't happen with Hunter Harvey, man. He continues to get hit with this injury bug. Scott talks all the time about
injury prone
and whatnot.
Not even injury prone, because the one when he was in Bowie. He got fucking hit in the shin on the line like a comeback, or like he can't plan something like that.
Right.
But it's still injury prone.
Yeah.
Hit by a car crossing the road, you're not injury prone, you're just human.
He just hits all the bad.
He's got bad
Sergio
luck.
Kindle injury prone, or did he fall on the steps?
He just finds it somehow.
Well, this guy continues to find the wrong pothole every year. Man.
Time.
I mean, it's one thing after
shame.
the other, and this time, unfortunately, it's the old oblique injury, which. Those things,
see him in August.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell how fast. He's younger, so he should heal quicker than the average. But
I used to hang out with Chris Davis and ask about that.
yeah. But as James mentioned earlier, they did officially put him on the 60-day 60-day injury list, not disabled list. So we won't see him at least for the first 2 months of the season, which allowed them to bring Franco in. He actually takes his roster spot at that point. I don't know, man. It's you see the flashes with this guy. He still throws in the upper 90s when he's out there and when he's healthy. But if you can't stay on the fucking field, what good does it do you?
Yeah, he was that kind of. You switched into the bullpen. It was kind of like a not like the same example, but it was kind of that big game Tommy. Like
right.
He all right. Well, maybe I'm not cut out to be a starter anymore. Let me go out and you throw 100 instead of like having to monitor your pitches. And he showed a lot of flashes. Like you thought he would be like the closer of the future, and then it's just something always happens with him. That sucks.
And then maybe they need to call like Ashley Furniture or something, get some better digs down there in Florida because Chris Davis got hurt sitting on the bench.
Well, that one just things work out how they're supposed to work out. That's all I'm going to say. So whatever it might be, listen, this comes from a guy who just turned 39, who's had nothing but back issues entire life. I know how back issues suck. So if he's got actual back issues, I feel for him.
It's really hard to carry all that money around, bro.
Yeah, I think it is what it is.
Go, man. The funny part, you know how like they do contracts, like they break down for like every swing. It costs as much.
Yeah.
Chris Davis, like for every sunflower seed he eats, it's 15.
Because he doesn't have a single swing, so it's not.
Right.
It's 140 million per zero swing.
Bat breaks.
That's why I was saying.
Million.
That's why I was saying he sneezed Franco's contract and gave him $800,000. How the Orioles were able to pay for him, but I don't know, man. Listen, again, I don't talk ill will on anybody. I hope that if he does have a back issue, he gets it taken care of, but. This opens up the door more for Franco to get, like we said, more playing time at DH if they end up keeping Ruiz. Or, like you said, if they end up wanting to bring up one of these younger prospects to get some at-bats early. If it's not going to start their clock, why wouldn't you?
Well, first
I think
you
it
need
makes
a
a lot of
COVID
sense.
contact, so we're kind of rooting for a COVID contact
Oh,
to do that.
yeah, no, that's not
No
good for that.
COVID contacts, but if they do, Adley will be glad to see you for free.
All right, guys, it's time for the rundown, and I kind of liked how we did it last week where we went through these things one topic at a time. We kind of rotate in, so I'll start.
Yeah, the birthday boy's not only starting, but he's picking the king.
The king, LeBron James. You think I'm going to talk basketball because it's LeBron James, and that would make sense, but he's actually set to become part owner of the, ready for this, Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, because, he's got ties to Boston. In baseball. And
yeah. The only tie I ever saw to Boston was the picture that you see right here. I think this was during like the home run derby competition during the All-Star game. He's sitting there with Dr. Dre and he had the Beats headphones on. This is before like Beats had really taken off. Like this was like the first like marketing campaign that they went on. And he was in Boston. He had the headphones on and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think this whole thing's interesting. He joins the Fenway Sports Group as a partner with Matt Carter, becoming the first black partners in FSG history. This group also owns Liverpool Football Club, so we'll have part ownership in that as well. But, I mean, listen, this just improves LeBron's legacy outside of basketball. You can think what you want about him on the basketball court. Is he the greatest of all time? The Michael Jordan debate, all that stuff. You can say what you want about him, but he's a smart businessman. He's done a lot of good for the community, and he just continues to kind of break boundaries. But I'm interested long-term to see how the fans, specifically in Boston, react to this. There have been a lot of racial remarks and behavior.
So I was just looking this up because in my head, LeBron had said Boston was racist. So I had to look it up. Actually, it was the Adam Jones situation with the Boston people. LeBron actually said it was nice people coming to his defense, but in my experience in the Garden, I have never had anyone say racist things that I'm aware of.
Shut up, Adam! I'm about to buy him.
So he basically they paid him off for his nice comments.
Exactly.
Come on over. You seem to like our town.
I'll be interested to see. Listen, I've been to Boston sometimes, and my job directly deals with people in Boston. They are a breed of their own. They are an inch. They do not have no
They're very
filter.
nice people. We'd like them to buy more power tools and fitting accessories.
yes. So it'll be interesting to see how that whole dynamic works out. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. So for mine, I want to talk a little bit about the Saints and the magical money carousel that's on down there.
Yeah, please explain this to me.
I can't explain it. It's crazy. So, Drew Brees retiring. So that helped out a little bit and hurts a lot. So, you got what Drew Brees used to be and what he was last year. We can probably replace what he was last year, right?
Right.
So they decide to restructure Hill's deal. Like, it wasn't crazy enough what they were paying this backup quarterback or backup tight end that they keep comparing.
He's
to
another Lamar Jackson. What are you talking
That's what
about?
they keep saying.
Fuck
That this
that guy.
backup
He's-
tight end is the next Lamar Jackson. Well, apparently so. Hill's new deal, $140 million extension. Not really.
Sort of.
So
BS.
bottom line is the Saints now only have $8.4 million against the cap for him in 2021, which was the whole idea.
Right.
They were $30 million over the cap before they went and re-signed all their players and let no one leave.
Right.
So they had to do something.
And franchise their safety.
Yeah, so, and franchise the safety. So saving around $7.5 million this year. Also carries about $7.7 million cap in 2022, and they don't save any money for cutting him next year. So he's pretty much here for 2 years. But after that, they don't have to owe him anything. That's like
Right.
the last guaranteed money. So this is a 2-year deal, about $20 million. Not a big deal, even if he's just a tight end at that number, because of how much they use him in the Sean Payton offense. And then they also signed Winston to a deal.
What?
1 year, $5.5 million deal. His base salary is only $1 million again because they're playing magical cap numbers. With a $4.5 million signing bonus that goes over the next 3 years. So basically, the signing bonus I was always a little bit confused on. The signing bonus is given to you now, but it's split up over the lifetime of the contract, or it could even be split up further. So you're just kicking the money down the road, and this is a good year to do that because we didn't get any extra money to spend this year, and we're assuming the NFL is not going to fold, so there'll be a lot more extra money later.
So Jameis must be really betting the over that he is the quarterback of the future, because I can't imagine that there's not other teams out there, even as a backup, that would pay Jameis Winston a lot more money than $1 million base salary.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically
When you're looking
a
at
$6 million
quarterbacks getting
salary.
paid like, 10, 15 million to just sit on the bench, I would assume Jameis could quadruple his salary, go to $4, $5, $6 million easily just being a backup somewhere else. So
Yeah, if this basically goes to $12.5 million if he ends up being a serviceable quarterback and is the starter.
Okay.
So it's definitely incentive latent that if he ends up in that position and does even the terrible job he did in Tampa with a 5,000 yard season but 437
interceptions.
he should make a decent amount of money.
I think he likes it down there because, he's a seafood kind of guy.
Right.
Oh, yeah, he steals crab legs and now he gets them for free.
See what you did there, James. All right, sticking with quarterbacks. James, what do you got for us, man?
Mine is my boy Fitzmagic, still going around the league. His 16-year career keeps on going, so he just
Hall of Famer he is.
Right.
He is a Hall of Famer.
Funny, you were just talking about Fitz
The
last
Harvard
week.
Hall of Fame.
Yes,
Right.
no, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I bet anything on it he will be. He'll be a unique player. He signed a 1 year, $10 million in Washington football team. So, congrats to him. I hope they go to the playoffs, and I hope he wins something. This will be great because for him to land there is just unique. They could have signed Tyrod Taylor, went to the Texans.
Right.
He could have easily went there, but they know something about Fitzmagic. So I guess they thought from what they did last year, making the playoffs, they think if they have a better quarterback, they can probably win it all.
To me, this comes down to the Heineke situation.
Heineke,
whatever you want to call him.
Heineke.
He played one game.
Hayukin.
Why am I supposed to know his name? So to me, it
Turn
comes
into
down
Street Fighter?
Hayukin. So to me, Hayukin, they want to see what they got in that quarterback, and nobody has ever done what the Miami Dolphins did last year so smoothly and ran a 2-quarterback system without hurting anyone's feelings.
I tell you this,
that might be
Fred,
the Washington
Fred, I tell you
football team
this.
year.
During our draft, we're going to see that man over there draft Magic to throw to.
Not drafting
Yeah,
Fitz
you're good.
Magic.
Not if you beat him to it, because I know you'll end up drafting him just to
First
fucking
round.
prove a point.
Yeah, his
Third round pick.
His magazine was printed in 1987. They're like, Fitzpatrick's a good rookie quarterback here.
Yeah.
The question with your Hall of Fame prediction, will he ever retire so that he can get to the Hall of Fame? Because I feel like he could just keep going and going being a backup.
Chuck's got a good one. Fitzmagic, he's the Bartolo Colon of quarterbacks. I like it. That's a great comparison.
God.
Dude, over a 16-year career, he has made $72 million.
Could you imagine seeing Fitzpatrick?
He's not a stupid guy. He's a
No.
Harvard guy, right? And he's been a very good backup quarterback, and he's been a serviceable starter when he's gotten the opportunity. in that fucked up division that he's in,
He could win.
he could win that division pretty easily, honestly.
Will he still wear his Miami button downs with his chest hair out? And
I hope he does. I hope he does.
And can you also picture him with the Bartolo Colon belly wearing that?
Oh man,
I can just imagine him down in Washington.
yeah. Listen, Washington's got some weapons down there. They've got a good young running back. They've got obviously McLaurin there,
course,
right?
man.
Yeah, they've it depends on what they do in the draft. They've got some early picks too. Be interesting to see what happens in Washington,
They're gonna
especially in
win
that
that
division.
division.
They could very easily. They did last year at 7-9.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drew.
All right, the almighty Patriots. Might as well bring it up.
Who else do they sign in
Out
the
here
last
trying
hour and a
to-
half that we've been on?
Scott
A
Foster.
couple.
Yeah.
Scott Foster signed with the New England Patriots. Long snapper. So they're out here trying to win free agency before it actually even begins. They spent already in excess of $137.5 million guaranteed
Jesus.
to the likes of Matt Judon. You got the Aguilar and Bourne wide receiver duo, which Bourne kind of intrigues me. It kind of could be that Edelman role.
I like
mean, we'll
Bourne. I
see.
do not like
I mean,
Aguilar.
I think that's a complete waste
Yeah.
of money.
Right.
The tight end duo, they're trying to bring that tight end duo back with Hunter Henry and John Smith.
Yeah, which one of them's murdering people on the weekends?
And they brought in the cornerback Jalen Mills.
We're going to call that duo Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th duo. But let's not forget.
One of them's name's Hunter.
Let's not forget that they decided to bring
not
back
funny,
the
but it's
below
funny.
average Cam Newton. That he's either good or he's going to be a complete waste of space again.
Yeah.
But I always stick to that same adage: you don't win this thing in March. I know it's the Patriot way and it's Belichick, but ask the Jets, ask Miami, ask Washington, ask all these teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who spent $1.4 billion in free agency.
Right.
What spending all this money for? You have to draft well. They haven't been drafting well. So okay, you get a lot of guys that are coming off of either really good years or that prove it deals with their teams, and they're signing them now. But is that really going to matter when it comes time for it?
With all of that and the 6 to 8 people they got opting back in after COVID, that's a whole different team than last year, though. It's all
You
it's
get
more similar to
Hightower
the year
back.
before.
You get Hightower and Chung back. That's two key cogs in your defense as well.
That's huge.
It is, but it still comes down to what we've been arguing about with quarterbacks and money. You still need a quarterback that's actually going to write this. I don't think Newton is, and we've been talking about it. We don't think that it's just Cam Newton.
Stay tuned. I still think the Patriots will weave their magic. I don't think they make these deals and sign these targets and bring in a duo of tight ends like this. I mean, the money that they're paying for these tight ends is ridiculous. Jonu's right up there with Kelsey money right now.
I never mentioned it. I thought it would have been cool to bring, not for this money, obviously, but I thought he would have been one of those guys a couple weeks from now, you go, oh, the Ravens brought in Jonnu Smith for a 2-year, $10 million deal or something. That would have been pretty cool. Well, that ain't fucking happening.
Not when I can get 8 times
Yeah,
that up in New
exactly.
England. Yeah,
So
no
only
way.
2 years, $25 million is guaranteed on that. It's a bloated.
I still
number
wouldn't have imagined
contract,
him
but
getting
still.
something like this from off the get-go.
Yeah, it
Well,
was early.
Stay tuned. I still think the Patriots are going to pull off a move. Whether that's Jimmy G, I hope it's not Russell Wilson.
They're a
I
wild
still
card
think
team
they're
right
going to pull
now.
something away.
I think they're a wild card team right now.
We'll see.
You got 7 wild cards now. 7.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
It's a lot of elbow work for a gang sign. 2-minute warning.
Oh, man. All right, Ryan, it's time for the 2-minute warning. And being that you are in the junior chair today,
Okay.
you are going to start off.
All right. Sounds
I'll
good.
let
Me
you
and Mo
lead
got
off.
this.
All right, man. James, what do we got?
Drew's going to take it.
All
off
right.
with the
March
first one.
Madness is upon us. Thank God
Yeah.
this year we get March Madness.
Don't ask me that.
Who do you have winning the whole thing?
The Terps, obviously.
Oh, here we go.
The Terps are the best team there is. We're going to win. We're going to beat Alabama round 2, and we're going to beat Texas round 3, and we're going to win the whole thing. No, honestly, I probably would take the Illini. I think Cockburn's going to take it down this year. I think Dosunmu is one of the better guards in the country.
Thanks for the proper
and
pronunciation.
and Cockburn, no silent CKs out here, will take down the national championship.
All right, so I'll stay Big Ten, and we're gonna go with that rival. I think it's gonna,
don't say it.
I think it's gonna be Michigan, man. They're built to do it. They've got good backcourt play, as we talked about. Their point guard, he's the little Energizer Bunny, and they've got a ton of size. I know the issues that Howard and Turge had. Howard is a good coach, regardless. Either way, I think Michigan and maybe wild card. I'll go with Jeremy Kahn's UConn. We'll see.
And then the next
first
one
round
is,
loss for the Terps.
I don't know if you heard or not, but do you guys care, or would you guys watch the Lamar Odom, Aaron Carter celebrity boxing match?
If they have actual boxing rules and not all this headgear, not allowed to hit in the head, don't do anything, I'll watch anybody famous fight anybody famous. If we play actual boxing, like, that sounds awesome. Let's bring back celebrity deathmatch. Let's go.
So yeah, I would watch it if it was celebrity deathmatch in a fucking claymation formation. I would watch that.
Anything.
That would be entertaining. Did you not see Nate Robinson look like a fucking dumbass being out there in that boxing match with Logan? No, I don't want to see another one of those shit show fights. Now, if you get two old fighters like the Tyson and the whole Roy Jones Jr. thing together again, I'll watch that, because these are two guys that at least at one point knew what the fuck they were doing in a boxing ring. I have no interest in watching that one. So
stay tuned for After Hours, where we set up the Ryan Fred celebrity deathmatch for you guys.
All right, Ryan, it's your turn to shine in this sign off, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Scott, hope again you have a safe flight, have a safe trip out there, and we'll see you back. Well, they'll see you back next week, as me and Ryan will be gone. We'll be in Florida, so you'll see us back in 2 weeks.
Florida. We'll be coming back with the Terps going to the Final Four. We'll see you then. All right, outro. We want to remind you guys to check us out on the birdlandbs.com. The episodes are on there. Birdland BS gear's on there that Scott's wearing somewhere else because he's not here. Check us out, bigplay.com, Big Play on Twitter. Download the Big Play app. BS social media accounts, Twitter, Birdland BS, at Fred BLS, at Scott BLBS, at Terps BSpert. We got bartender Blake, who we haven't seen in a minute, James Bond 2032. And then we got just at Drew, just hashtag Drew, all right, over there on the couch.
Still not accurate. Damn.
So if you have an opinion on a topic you want us to hear about, use the hashtag That's BLBS. That's BLBS. As always, be sure to check out the version on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or the podcast app of your choice. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week at 7:30 p.m. anywhere you can stream anything. Hang out for the after hours, guys.
See you guys.
Peace.
It's time for the after party.
And in this corner, weighing in at 280 pounds, fully vaccinated.
I'm 92% there.
We're getting there. We're getting there, Fred.
Hey, Fred,
Hashtag
apparently in the beginning, Scott wrote in that's like his cousin's.
Oh, okay. So that
Cousins
makes
Bat
sense.
Company. So it really is. It's not just him Google searching his name.
They fucking crushed it. I mean, this
awesome.
thing is really, really awesome that the The logo is like perfect. The colors that they used are almost identical to the logo. Like
Hashtag not a sponsor. Why aren't you tapping into your cousins?
yeah, right. Why is Foster Bats not a sponsor of the show? Let's make that happen, Scott.
Chris Davis could use that bat because nothing would happen to it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this Michigan thing here.
Yeah.
You want or you don't?
Do I want them?
You
No.
just think
I
Michigan's
think they
gonna win.
could. Listen,
They're
Michigan,
playing Mount St. Mary's week 1, and I heard that Hunter Dickinson wasn't recruited by Mount St. Mary's, who's right down the road from his house.
I can't stand them, right? I never could stand Michigan prior to Terps ever being in the Big Ten because of the whole Ohio State connection that I have with my father and everything. So I've always hated Michigan. But when you're just being unbiased and you look at their team, they're built to make a run. They are good inside and outside, and they've got good depth.
As we were talking before the show, I love the Michigan rivalry because it's the same exact thing as the Duke rivalry. Michigan is going to be busy with Ohio State, and we are going to hate Michigan more than they hate us. So it's very similar. Like Duke was worried about UNC and didn't think anything of us.
Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. All the happy birthday wishes. I've been overwhelmed with social media happy birthdays today. It's incredible. I thank you all, literally, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it.
That's what you get when you're a D-list celebrity, man.
D-list, yeah, definitely. More like E or F list. You know, I'm way down there.
By the way, big snack I'm 90% sure is bacon from the Twitter chat. Bacon Mayfield.
Oh, okay. Got it. I was wondering. I knew I'd heard it before, but I couldn't place it.
It was like Bacon Heineke was the name above Big
That makes
Snack.
sense because he had hashtag Thunderdome.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense. Now I know
Thunderdome should have given it to you. I didn't see the hashtag
Yeah,
Thunderdome.
there was 2 people in there from
Yeah.
it, and they had hashtag Thunderdome underneath it.
I
It
shared
didn't
it to
register.
that.
Damn it.
To the Thunderdome today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, any good comments come in during the show that you want to bring up, James, that we can
Nah, it's all
digest?
Everybody's comments suck. What are you guys doing? Step your game up.
It was really well. It's all about like Judon, all these free agents and free agents signing today, and
Yeah.
about the Terps.
Well, Drew, I know you didn't get to chime in a whole lot during the Ravens segment. So, what was your take on what happened from a pass rush standpoint? Right, you lose 2 big names in Matt Judon and Yannick, but you avoid 2 big contracts, right? You bring back the veteran in Pernell McPhee on a cheap deal, and then you bring back a guy who's kind of ascending in the right direction in Tyus Bowser on the relative cheap as well.
I still look at Matt Judon, 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Look at Brandon Williams, a 3rd round pick. You can go on and on for a year. I mean, Delius Thomas was pretty good here for undrafted.
Yep. Jared Johnson.
They seem to do this where they find these guys, and okay, you want to have a JJ Watt type come in. You want to hope they could draft him somehow in the 20s, and you've got your defensive player of the year favorite every year.
What did JJ Watt bring Houston?
No, I'm not. Well,
other than a whole lot of money for like fucking off the field shit. Disasters.
It does seem to suck when you see a bunch of guys that are starters leave, but I mean, like Tyus Bowser kind of could do the same exact things that Judon can do. You worry about setting the edge, but maybe something clicks where now that if he is a starter, maybe it clicks. I mean, there's just I never panic this time of year with the Ravens ever.
Right.
And maybe it's blind faith some years more than others, but I just think that it would have been too much to pay him. It would have been too much to pay Ngakoue.
Yeah.
He didn't show anything. And then these comp picks, a lot of you look at you might be paying Andrews. That was a 3rd round pick.
Yep.
You got lucky and you
Now
got
with these
Orlando Brown.
Big tight end contracts that came out today. Thank you, New England.
Thanks a lot.
Freaking Andrews' contract just went up.
But I do. It used to be in Ozzy I trust. Now it's in EDC I trust. I trust their processes of the way they do things, especially on defense.
Right.
That I think that they can make up for it, and then now you just get back to can they get a wide receiver that's either in free agency or like you would hope that one year that they actually draft this mega wide receiver that just clicks.
So the wide receiver thing for me, there's a couple things that come with it. I know Kenny Golladay is the big name that everybody wants to hang their hat on. I know we were talking about Allen Robinson for a long time, right? These are guys that when you look at them on the outside, would make a ton of sense coming in here, would be good fits, right? But again, if this system doesn't work for the player, then you're just overpaying for a player based on stuff that they've done elsewhere, not what they're going to do in your system. And like, for instance, even in the draft, right? An example, Justin Jefferson, right? Last year landed onto the scene and did monstrous things in Minnesota. My opinion, Justin Jefferson is just another guy if he gets drafted by the Ravens this year. I'm not saying that he couldn't be a good receiver here, but he's not Justin Jefferson that we saw in Minnesota here, right? So you bring in an Allen Robinson, you pay all this money, you bring in a Kenny Galladay, you pay all this money, they're not going to have the kind of production that they've had. And listen, I know Allen Robinson did big things in Chicago with a shit quarterback throwing his way. I know he put up good numbers, but again, this offense just isn't predicated around passing the ball. So the biggest question is, do we see growth from Roman and this offense and these new coordinators or coaches that they brought in? Do we see that? And I'd rather them go out and draft a guy early, like a Bateman or like a Marshall that we've talked about, and hopefully hit big there and get the value because you're not paying all that money for it.
Yeah, and I think back to when you give the negativity towards how they drafted wide receivers. Okay, Perriman was an absolute what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah.
Now, Hollywood will find out. He wasn't – you can't expect him to come in. You think by first-round receiver –
Appreciate that, Garnett.
A lot of times you see a first-round receiver, you just automatically think Megatron, A.J. Green. Like, you think of these big guys and Julio Joneses, and it's not always the case in the first round. But it's just, at some point, you would think that it would click at some point.
Right.
Garnett says Justin Jefferson fits perfectly with us. Nobody's given up Justin Jefferson for 30 first-round picks. What's that about?
No. Because I just mentioned Justin Jefferson not being as productive here as he was in Minnesota.
If they would
draft Justin Jefferson would be the perfect fit, right? I think Justin Jefferson makes a lot of sense, just like Rashad Bateman just makes a lot of sense, just like Terrace Marshall makes a lot of sense. They could be that true X receiver. I just don't think Justin Jefferson has the same success here that he had in Minnesota year one because of the system.
Because Kirk Cousins is so much better than Lamar, is what you're saying?
No, because the offensive system is predicated more around throwing the ball down the field to your X receiver. This offense just wasn't set to do that this year.
I mean, their offense is also set around Dalvin Cook an awful lot. They run the ball more than many.
I'm not saying they
teams.
don't run the ball, but they're a pass-heavy team. I mean, Cousins was putting up over 4,500 yards down there in Minnesota. So much so they had so much riches in wide receivers, they ended up giving up Stephon Diggs. And
see you later, Diggsy.
Rinse, repeat, and they got Justin Jefferson. They hit a home run.
See, and that always brings me to my feeling when it comes to this team. In comparison to Minnesota. Minnesota's defense is dog shit.
Yeah.
This defense is not dog shit. Like, this defense, I mean, there's a lot of times where you've given them short field where, like, you might have scored a touchdown, but you were already on your own 40.
So using that analogy, right, you don't need to hit a grand slam and go out there and get the big name Kenny Galladay and the Allen Robinsons and all that of the world. You can hit a home run. You can hit an extra base hit by hitting it right in the draft and getting a guy like Terrace Marshall or getting a guy like Rashad Bateman because of their fit in this system. And then it's up to that point. It's up to Lamar getting back to being comfortable in the pocket, going through his reads and stepping into his throws. And then it comes down to Greg Roman developing and opening up the playbook, putting better route concepts in. Hopefully T. Martin and Williams have some effect in some sort of way with that. But for me, I think the Ravens are going about this smarter to start free agency with the money that they have. They're filling the offensive line, which is the utmost importance for Lamar's success. Bringing back the most bang for your buck on the defensive side in Bowser, and now getting back Wolfe, keeping Pernell McPhee, not overpaying for guys like Judon, like Yannick. Eric DeCosta's doing it all the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah, all I can try to figure out is how to talk Florida Gators and figure out that negativity. We haven't fit that into the show yet.
All right, guys. Ryan and I will not be here next week. Like I said, we're going to Florida for my birthday weekend this weekend, so we'll be back to late Tuesday night. So it'll be Scott, Drew, and James on the
Skeleton
mic.
crew. We got
next
There's
week.
nobody extra. Everybody's got to show up.
We'll figure it out. We'll be all right.
I'll see you in 2 weeks. The guys will see you next
if not,
week.
it'll just be me and Scott just arguing back and forth.
I'm going to be tuned in either way because I can't stay away from it. It'll be entertaining.